Here's my disclaimer because I don't have enough lawyers on the Shiviti team. Everything that I say tonight, and everything that you hear, in the Shiviti learning forums, whether the regular one or for Pesach, is said on one of two assumptions. One, that I am your rabbi and you're coming to ask me halakhic questions. Two, that you don't have another rabbi that you ask halakhic questions to, and therefore you're learning halakha from me. If you do have another rabbi, or you belong to another community, and you're here, or you're using our internet forum to make other rabbis' lives difficult, I'm telling you that you do not have my blessing. For real. It's not the way that it works, it's not the way it's supposed to work. Those who are here, I'm going to speak freely and openly, because I'm assuming that your Jewish standards are the same as ours. If there's something that's going to make you fall out of your chair, just... Is anyone here a dentist? Just wave your hand like this and we'll stop drilling and we'll answer your questions. This is not a lecture. Please feel free to chime in, but we have a lot of ground to cover. And that brings me to my third announcement, and that is this is the longest class of the year. So I'm going to be here. I can't tell you the amount of time, but have in mind that we're here to study all of Kehillat Pesach. If at any point in time you need to go, just feel free to stand up. Shalom Aleichem. But my goal is to finish within the next hour and a half. That's my plan. Anyone who's making noise is related to me. Those are my children. They don't know how to be quiet because I didn't give them those genes. So just please bear with them. I have to admit that Pesach is my favorite holiday. Tell the truth. Pesach is my favorite holiday. Purim was fun. It was a nice thing, you go around, hear Megillah, so you wear costumes. Sukkot is great. I don't love sleeping outside. Pesach is the most beautiful Jewish holiday that we have. Listen carefully. It's also one of the easiest Jewish holidays that we have. This is not a cliche tagline. Pesach is easy. Try it out. It's for real. For real, for real. How do I know? Because everything that you study in the Bet Midrash has to fit into traditional Jewish literature. Namely, the Tanakh, which the first 5 books God gave us on Mount Sinai, and that has to be real for us to even believe in the system of Judaism. And second are the words of our rabbis in the Mishnah, the Talmud, the Rambam, the Shulchan Aruch. If anything that people teach on Pesach doesn't fit into any of those books, then you can know that it's categorically false, and you don't have to waste your time with it. Let me explain. The Torah says that you're not allowed to have chametz from any of the 5 grains on Pesach. What is chametz? I'm going to tell you. In America, they say it's wheat, barley, oats, rye, spelt. You do whatever with that you want. I'm not here to tell you what are the 5 grains, what are not the 5 grains. Whatever you think the 5 grains are, keep thinking that they are the 5 grains. The Torah says these 5 things, when they come in contact with water for too long of a time, what is too long of a time? 18 minutes from when the water touches the grains. So is flour on its own, wheat flour, is it chametz? No. Barley on its own, is it chametz? No. Only when it comes in contact with the water, and it lasts for longer than 18 minutes before it gets baked. Now, if you know 18 minutes is not a real number. Let's say you were in Yemen baking matzot, and you had a long line of people to wait for the one oven they had in the whole village. So you have dough, and your neighbor has dough, and the next one has dough, and it's you get there, and they tell you how long is the wait? 7.5 hours, like the DMV. How do you keep your dough from becoming chametz by the time you get to the oven?
Keep moving it.
You keep kneading it, and kneading it, and kneading it, and so long as you're working the dough, you could stay there the whole day, and the dough does not become chametz. A little fun fact. 18 minutes is not enough to make something chametz. It has to be 18 minutes without anything happening to it. That's the only thing the Torah prohibits you from eating on Pesach. Any of the 5 grains that came in contact with water for longer than 18 minutes before they were baked. So give me examples of things you're not allowed to eat on Pesach. Bread, very good. Cookies, cakes, crackers.
Pretzels.
Who said rice? Don't say rice. Come on. Yeah, don't worry, we're going to save you too. And pretzels, who said pretzels? Very good.
Excuse me.
Pizza, beer.
Pizza, beer. I'm answering beer. That's nice. Okay. You got it. That's what you're not allowed to eat on Pesach.
Whiskey.
Rice, corn, beans, sesame seeds, mustard, cumin, anise, whatever else you're going to throw in the category. Peanut butter, soy sauce, without flour.
Orange juice.
Without wheat, that's right, without wheat.
Orange juice.
Orange juice. Aluminum foil, bleach, soap, laundry detergent, dishwasher detergent, toothpaste, whatever. All of those things are not considered chametz. Now we can go home. This is Hilchot Pesach. Let me explain to you how I know this to be true. Aside from the fact that Torah told us this. How many people here have already started cleaning their house for Pesach? None of the guys raised their hand. You see that? Nobody. Okay, he's cleaning his house for Pesach. When do our rabbis command you to begin searching your house for chametz?
The night of.
The night before Pesach, 24 hours before your seder, you come to your house, and you come with, if you want to use your little candle, whatever else, fine, your spoon. You come and you check for chametz. If you search for chametz the day before, are you allowed to make a blessing on that search of chametz? No. The rabbis commanded us to search for chametz the night before Pesach. Listen carefully. It is our opinion of halakha. Last time I said this, they went crazy at me. Not you. They. No. They with the capital T. If you have already cleaned your whole house for Pesach, the way my mother has cleaned her house for Pesach, and the night before Pesach, chametz is afraid to come into the house for Pesach in my mother's house. You know what they say? They say the police, they called the sheriff and they said, listen, we're here reporting to a shooting at somebody's house. So what happened? Said the lady was mopping the floor and her husband came in and the floor was still wet, so she shot him. So, no, did you arrest her? I said, no, the floor's still wet. The chametz is afraid of half the people's houses to go inside. The night before Pesach, if your house is clean from chametz, you are forbidden from saying the blessing of searching for chametz the night before Pesach. It's a blessing in vain. You know there's no chametz there. You know there's no problem. And therefore, the first halakha I'm going to tell you tonight. If you wish to be able to fulfill the mitzvah of searching for chametz in your house the night before Pesach, you have to at least leave somewhere in your home that you did not clean already for Pesach. If you've already cleaned everything for Pesach, please do not violate one of the 10 commandments and say Hashem's name in vain. But I'm waiting for my but. So what if we clean the house? What do we put out there before the search for chametz? My Kabbalist, where are you?
Some bread.
Yeah. If you're a Kabbalist, so you take 10 pieces of chametz and you wrap them up in paper, aluminum foil, I don't know, whatever, Ziploc bags, and you hide these all over the house. Every year somebody calls me and says, oh, Rabbi, I hid one of the pieces of chametz and I don't remember where it is. And every year I say, I don't understand, you cleaned your whole house for chametz? Yes. And then you went and deliberately you hid pieces of chametz all over your house? It's counterintuitive. Why would you add, okay, you added the chametz there. Why? Because you're, again, like you're a Kabbalist, you want to hide these things. According to halakha, you're not allowed to obligate yourself in making a blessing if you don't have to make the blessing. For example, if you drink your water bottle, and you want to drink a second water bottle, but you want to make a blessing on the second water bottle. So what do? You say an after blessing on the first one, you make a new blessing on the second one. Are you allowed to do that? No. In halakha, it's called a beracha she'enat tzaricha, a blessing that you don't need. And therefore, you can't clean your house for Pesach and then make it dirty again in order for you to be able to search for chametz all over. From here, I'm telling you that according to our rabbis, you really only need 24 hours, less because chametz has to be burned already in the morning. You need about 12 hours in your life to clean your house for Pesach. If you give me an hour of yours, I will help you do this in 12 hours. Fair? Let's do it. I need somebody who wasn't born in America. Come on.
Rabbi, your mom eats in your house or no?
Not everything.
His wife went to Ashkenaz too.
In America, what do we eat for breakfast? We eat cereal and Fruit Loops and 6 gallons of coffee with sugar. What do you eat? I'm talking about a place that has a real culture for breakfast. What do you eat for breakfast?
Cheese, eggs.
Oh, this is Israeli breakfast. What's an Israeli breakfast like? You have some bread, some cheese, some cucumbers and tomatoes. You have maybe some shakshuka if you want fancy. That's tomato sauce with eggs in there. And you have your bread. Let's say you come from Mexico. What do you eat for breakfast? You make chilaquiles. You have fried corn tortilla. You have some beans, some avocado, some eggs, some cheese. Guacamole, very good. What if, I don't know, what was anyone else have another breakfast? Traditional breakfast?
Pancakes.
I said, not in America. Now what do you have for lunch? You have a protein, fish, chicken, meat, a salad, rice, quinoa, beans, something on the side. For dinner, almost the same thing. If you were going to change over your menu from chametz to Pesach, what would you change if you were having an Israeli breakfast? Would you still be able to eat the shakshuka?
Yes.
Yes. Would you be able to eat the salad?
Yes.
Yes. The vegetables? Yes. The eggs?
Yes.
Yes. The cheese?
Yes.
Yes. So what do you have to change? Just the bread that you're eating. Change it from a lafa to a matzah. Zil.
And also the cheese has to be kosher.
Don't worry. I'll tell you what has to be kosher. Don't worry. Don't worry.
He has a book.
Welcome to the class. But I know what's your name?
My name is Rivka,
Rivka. Nice to meet you. Baruch Hashem.
former rabbinite,
Oh, Rabbanit Rivka. Why former?
because my ex-husband's not with us anymore.
But you're still a Rabbanit.
I'm still in my heart.
Baruch Hashem. Eshet chaver kechaver damim. The Gemara rules that you're a Rabbanit. Everything that you eat in the world is really kasher lePesach, aside from your bread and your cookies and your crackers and your pretzels and everything we mentioned before. So if you're Sephardic, the only thing you have to change in your diet is stop eating bread and start eating matzah. Zehu. Rice you're allowed to eat? Yes. Beans you're allowed to eat? Yes. Corn you can eat? Yes. Aluminum foil, you're able to eat it too if you want. We know some good mental health professionals around this table. Nice point. And if you're Ashkenazi, then Chachmei Ashkenaz, I'm using this intentionally. When I say Chachmei Ashkenaz, I don't mean street Ashkenaz. I mean the sages of Ashkenaz. What does it mean to be a sage? It means you learned your information to be a rabbi from somewhere aside from a Google search. Or from some newsletter you got in the email. A Chacham is somebody who studied thoroughly. Chachmei Ashkenaz added a few things to the category of things that Jews don't eat on Pesach. Rice. We had a class about this last week. What else? Beans. What else?
Peanuts.
Corn didn't exist in the times of the Chachmei Ashkenaz, but they added corn in later years. What else?
Sesame.
Sesame is not kidneyot according to Ashkenazim. What else? I told you, not street people. Chachamim, sages. What
I
else?
think you can have soybeans.
Soy. Were there soybeans in Poland 100 years ago?
No.
No. Therefore, they cannot be included in the category of things that Ashkenazim cannot eat. Rice and beans. Rice and beans. I have a chair right here. It's in the hot seat. Don't worry. Come. That's okay. He can sit next to me on my lap. Someone can bring him a chair maybe in this direction. Thank you. Your Pesach diet is very easy. If you're Sephardic or if you're Ashkenazi. Now, I can't help one thing. I can't help that since the rabbis in Ashkenaz added a few things to the diet, already that became an avalanche. And we got rid of all kinds of other things. People here mentioned soy, you mentioned sesames, you mentioned corn, you mentioned all things that didn't exist in Europe at all. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein says peanuts are okay to be eaten by Ashkenazim, but today people don't eat peanuts. I can't save anybody from Judaism that doesn't adhere to books, and therefore I'm not going to try. And so I'm asking you tonight to stay with me within the framework of halakha. Don't go with me to the street. Please don't tell me what you read online somewhere. Don't tell me what you heard in Ralph's at the grocery store when you were talking to somebody. That's not where you learn halakha from. We're going to learn halakha tonight from books. Say that. I get this question every year. Let's get it out of the way now. Can Ashkenazim eat kidneyot on Pesach?
Yes.
Thank you, Rabbi. Well, can we put the camera on him? Because I didn't say it.
You said it last time, see?
The answer is, it's not my question to answer. It's too dangerous of a question to answer. For real, for real. But I'll ask you a question in return. Which biblical prohibition would Ashkenazim be violating if they ate rice on Pesach? I asked the question. Which biblical prohibition would Ashkenazim violate if they ate rice on Pesach? None. Which rabbinic prohibition? What does rabbinic mean? Rabbis of the Talmud. Which rabbinic prohibition would Ashkenazim violate if they ate rice on Pesach? None. Which custom would Ashkenazim violate if they ate rice on Pesach? Some of them had a custom. Not all Ashkenazim had a custom. This is in the category of a custom. I respect if you want to keep a custom. But here's what you can't do with a custom. You can't make a custom at the Jewish law. You can't pretend as if those who eat rice and beans and corn on Pesach are somehow less observant of the laws of Pesach. To the contrary, the Torah has a biblical prohibition in which it says, you shall not add to the Torah and you shall not take away from the Torah. And therefore somebody who adds to the Torah is as guilty as anybody else who takes away from the Torah. As I said in my class last week, a deviation from the law in either direction is deviation from the law. It doesn't make a difference if you deviate to the right or you deviate to the left. If you're deviating from that which our rabbis have told us in the Talmud, you're deviating. But it's a custom. I respect the custom. Here's what I don't respect. I don't respect when customs get blown out of proportion. Let me give you an example. If I go to the grocery store, let's make it more exciting than the grocery store. I go to the shuk. Anyone been to the shuk in Israel before? Yeah. The shuk. It's a loud place. People are, I don't think the health department has ever visited the shuk before. But there's a guy over there giving out chalva with his fingers, handing to you again. I don't think there's anyone. Okay, a bunch of restaurants, little boutiques, little stores. One guy over there is selling you raspberry jam. You go to the farmer's market. It's the same story. You say, what's in the raspberry jam? It says raspberries and sugar. So, okay, tell me that pot. What did you make in that pot a week ago? Oh, this pot. Normally I fry pancakes in here. Then I wash it out and I bring it to the shuk and I sell raspberry jam. When he makes raspberry jam in that pot, is that raspberry jam kosher for Passover or not kosher for Passover? It depends who you ask. It's a great answer. Whoever invented that was a diplomat. It depends who you ask. That's right. It does depend who you ask. That's right. Chametz. Today, chametz. If I would have a pancake, bread, and I would put it in my tea, can I drink this tea today? Is bread not kosher?
Today, no.
Chametz today is kosher?
Yes.
So if chametz is inside of a mixture before Pesach, does it have to be nullified in anything? No. It's kosher today. Today it's kosher. So therefore, if this jam that I have in 3 weeks from now, and it's the day after the Seder, and I want to smear it on my matzah, you're allowed to do that on Pesach. Because it was kosher before Pesach. Who cares that it used to have chametz inside of it? The premise of everything I'm telling you now is, any product that you're going to hear that we say, oh, look at this, it has kosher ingredients, and people are going to tell me, oh, but how do you know? Maybe the machine over there, they tell you you can't buy frozen vegetables for Pesach. Why? Because the machine, they make pasta on it too. Listen, I don't have to take you to a factory for you to figure out that the machine that makes pasta doesn't also make frozen vegetables. But let's pretend it did. Let's pretend. Let's go with the narrative. It doesn't make a difference that the machine made pasta according to halakha, because 2 weeks before Pesach, when your food was made, pasta was not prohibited for a Jewish person to eat. And therefore, the only thing that concerns us when we buy food for Pesach is what is sitting in front of me right now. Not where did it come from, what did it touch. Your food doesn't get cooties from chametz. If it was nullified before Pesach, it's okay. And before I get over my head, I'm going to elaborate about this a little bit later in my class. Let's take it from the top. So I said on the night before Pesach, you have to start making your house clean and kasher for Pesach. Let's talk about the first thing that happens. When you start before Pesach, how many people here buy new pots and pans or utensils or things like that for Pesach? Yeah? Okay. Let's throw in a halakha there. When you buy a new pot or a pan or anything that comes in contact with food, what's a biblical obligation that you have to do? Take it to the mikveh. You have to take it to the mikveh and immerse it inside of the mikveh. Why do we do that? We don't know. I'll save you an answer. We don't know. The Torah tells you to do it. There are rabbis, such as the Ramban, I believe, who tell us that Just like when somebody who's not Jewish joins the Jewish people, they go first into the mikveh. So too, when you buy, so to speak, a non-Jewish pot or pan, and you want to use it for a Jewish purpose, like making kasher food, it also has to go visit a mikveh first. I'm not convinced that that's the reason why, but that's the reason. The Torah tells us everything that you buy that's made out of metal has to go to a mikveh first. So tell me which kind of things you have to take to a mikveh that's made out of metal. Pots, pans, what else? Silverware.
Utensils.
What utensils? Things that come in contact. Trays don't always come in contact with food. Sometimes, you know the tray you put the teapot on? That doesn't have to go to the mikveh. The teapot does. Spatulas, cooking. You said utensils. You mean cooking utensils? Yeah, and all the, the spatula, I don't know what they're called. The thing that takes out the pasta from the pot, the ladle, all these things. Everything that's made out of metal has to go to a mikveh. What's the blessing you say before you put in the mikveh? Very good. Al tivilat kelim. If you're doing one, then you say a different bachan singular. You put it in the mikveh once, immersed completely. You take it out, and this is good for you to use. A rabbi said there's something else that's similar to metal. That's glass. Glass and metal share which quality? If you're a scientist, this is going to bother you. So don't listen.
They heat up.
You can, if you break glass, you can heat it up. It becomes liquefied, and you can reshape it. And therefore, both glass and metal can be melted and reshaped. Because of that, the Talmud added that anything that's made out of glass has to go to the mikveh also. So now add in all your cups and any plates or anything, serving utensils that are made out of glass, those also have to go to the mikveh. What about ceramic? No. What about wood? No. What about, give me rubber? No. What about plastic?
No.
Why? But plastic can be melted down and reshaped. They didn't have plastic then, very good. And therefore, many Chachamim, namely who I'm thinking in mind, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein writes, that you can't, I wish that they followed this rule all the time. You cannot make up new rules that didn't exist in times of the Talmud, and it's bad enough that our rabbis made us put glass in the mikveh. We're not also going to add plastic to this list. So if you're buying new things for Pesach, all I'm asking you is to remember that those things have to go to the mikveh before you use them on Pesach. Now what happens if you make your chametz pot, you made something in there, now you want to use that chametz pot for Pesach. If you take it to the mikveh and put it inside of the mikveh, does it make your pot kosher for Passover? No, please don't confuse. The laws of immersing utensils has nothing to do with the laws of making things kosher for Pesach. It's two different things. One is when you buy new things. By the way, what if you go to a thrift shop, Goodwill, and you see a nice, it's a brand new pot, it's used. That pot also has to go to the mikveh. New means it's new for you. It has to be bought from somebody who's not Jewish, and it has to be new, and it's something that comes in direct contact with food. Now we talked about a used pot. This is really the bulk of the laws of Passover. How do I make my house kosher for Pesach? I'm starting with you in order. I'm going to talk to you about all the exciting foods in just a few minutes. Let's talk about making my kitchen kosher for Pesach. To explain that, I have to explain a few rules first. Yes.
You said when you buy pots and pans from a non-Jew, it has to go to the
Very good.
So in Israel?
Oh, that's a great question. The truth is that Israelis a long time ago stopped making their own pots and pans. They found that in China they could do it for cheaper. So everything you're buying in Israel, in America too, you go to a Jewish store that's selling you things, the assumption is they weren't made by somebody Jewish. If they were made by somebody Jewish, then that would be a problem.
From the manufacturer,
Yes,
not the store.
It's a good question. Talk to me about something you're afraid to put inside of the mikveh.
Toaster.
A toaster. You buy an electrical appliance. It's made with metal. The metal part touches the food. So does an oven need to go to the mikveh? No. Why? You put pots and pans and everything inside of the oven. You don't put the food. Some people, most people don't put their food inside the oven itself directly. That would be different than maybe a small toaster oven. And the toaster oven is the one that looks like an oven, but it's smaller. There's a toaster. That's the one that pops out bread, pancakes, those things. What do you say? A water like this that we have right here. The urn, the hot water urn, that holds water directly. According to the majority of the poskim, those all have to go to the mikveh, with the exception of very big electronic appliances that can't move easily. Those things, because they're plugged into the wall, sometimes we find other ways to be lenient. I'll tell you like this. If it's a low-tech appliance, you have two options. You could take your toaster to the mikveh. And don't listen. I've done it before. Don't be afraid. You take it to the mikveh, you put it in the water, you take it out, you put it in the sun to dry for 3 or 4 days, and it'll be perfectly fine, nothing will happen to you. If it has some kind of fancy digital display, things like that, don't put it in water, please. I'm not taking any responsibility for that. What you do in that kind of situation is actually pretty interesting. If you can take apart the appliance, take out some screws. Today's appliances are not so good to take apart and put together. And then you put it back together. According to Jewish law, you built the appliance. And therefore, you are able to use it without taking it to the mikveh. It doesn't mean take out a screw and put it back in. It means you have to take it apart to a place where it wouldn't be able to be used and then put it back together. Your other option, yes?
You have to take the racks to the...
Which racks?
The oven racks. Because they're metal, and you might put something.
I don't believe that it comes... I don't believe it comes to the category of... That's you actually... I don't think most people put food directly. Sometimes you put like a pita or something, but...
Put bread on them.
Potatoes.
Potatoes directly on? Okay, then maybe you have to take... I don't have to take my rack. No, for real, maybe you have to. I don't know. That's a good question. The grates for the barbecue, those have to go to the mikveh also. What else? There's some more things that have to go to the mikveh. Your salt and pepper shaker made out of glass with a metal top, that has to go to the mikveh. Whatever comes in contact with your food has to go to the mikveh.
Fridge shelves?
What? Food shelves. Fridge shelves. No, fridge. That's a good. There is somebody that's been circulating. They have to take your tables to the mikveh. Please don't try that. It's not a thing. Yes.
Doesn't matter what they're made of. China, plastic.
Metal and glass. Everything else doesn't go to the mikveh. Metal and glass. Zil. Anything else about immersing utensils in a mikveh? What? Barbecue, only the grate has to go inside. The actual barbecue. Anything disposable you don't need to take. It's a good question. You'll notice on some of the wine bottles you're paying extra money for in the grocery store, they'll say on the back, use the new bottle, not recycle. They're not trying to tell you that they're there to destroy the environment, even though that's what they're doing. What they're telling you is that maybe you don't have to immerse a bottle in the mikveh because it's a one-time use. But now that you recycle it, then it's become something you use often. So long as something has the status of disposable, it doesn't make a difference how many times you use it. Like you say, you take an aluminum pan, a 9 by 13 pan, and you cook in it 20 times. Why? Because you're cheap. That's why. You don't want to throw it away. Frugal, is that the word? Okay, good. That's nice, man. That pan doesn't have to go to the mikveh. But let's say you were going to use a jar of the raspberry jam you bought in the farmer's market, and normally it's meant to throw away afterwards, but you decided you want to keep it, and you're going to keep it for how many years you're going to keep it?
Depends.
My grandmother had Shalom in her house had jars from when she made Aliyah from Morocco to Israel. Those jars, they're not one-time use. Those have to go to the mikveh after you use it. There is a myth on the street that you can use everything once before you take it to the mikveh. I don't know who made it up, but it's not true.
It's the slice of pizza guy.
It's the same guy who made the slice of pizza guy. It's not a rule in how, if you're going to use something, it has to go to the mikveh before you use it.
What if you go to a hotel?
What if you go to a hotel? The utensils in the hotel, are they yours? No. And therefore, so long as you don't own those utensils, they don't have to go to the mikveh. By the way, what if it's a Jewish hotel? What if it's a Jewish catering company? Let's throw it out there. Does the Jewish caterer have to take his utensils to the mikveh? Uriel is shaking his head. No, why? He doesn't use those utensils for himself. That's for business. And therefore, so long as he's not buying it for him to use his own food, there are a number of poskim who say that he doesn't have to take it to the mikveh in the first place.
So restaurant?
Restaurants would have a similar status like that. Don't be afraid. Can I go to the next topic? Making things kosher for Pesach. Last year, I was using like paper cups and plates and those things. One of our Shiviti San Diego members got me a gift from Amazon. I didn't understand why she told me. She said, Rabbi, I'm sending you a box. It has your name, but don't open it up near the kids because they're going to think it's for them. I'm like, what in the world is she be sending me that my kids are going to think are for them?
Maybe another.
I have no idea what the camera can see or doesn't see, so maybe you want to a little bit shift it back.
Cute, I like this.
Okay, let's have fun. In order to understand the laws of making things kasher, You have to understand how things become not kasher in the first place. When I use a pot, what's this pot made out of? Metal. Chava, please do me a favor. My opinion on stainless steel is my opinion on stainless steel. I don't want to engage in that in today's class. Let's just pretend, for the sake of today's conversation, that metal is porous. We're not talking about stainless steel. We're not talking about coated steel. We're talking about your cast iron pans that you have at home. Can we do that for tonight? Yes. So don't pretend it's as smooth and shiny as it really is. I take this pot, and I don't know, I wasn't home, and my cleaning lady decided she wanted to make food, and she brought her own meat from her own house and made not kosher meat in my pot. What's... Yes?
I'm sorry, that's enameled. It's not metal. So we're
Pretend.
just supposed to pretend it's metal,
Let's
right?
pretend, that's right.
Pretend,
No.
okay.
We're just using...
Pretend that it's cast iron.
Right. No, but that it's not enameled.
That's right. Oh yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't choose the colors.
No, I just...
or the design. Yes, yeah, she's right. It's not a perfect example. It's just better than this is a pot, and this is a pan, and this is a spatula. That's what I did last year, and it just didn't work. So you have to remember, it's like a memory game. You have to remember, is that a spatula or is that a ladle? I don't remember what the book is. This pot was made, not kosher meat was made in here. It was made in here how? On the stovetop. This pot has which halachic status?
Tray, porous.
It's considered taref. It's not kasher, meaning it has absorbed meat flavor. How long does this pot retain its not kosher status for?
24 hours.
24 hours. What happens after 24 hours? Your pot miraculously becomes palve again, and it becomes kosher again. Why? Because, what are we concerned about? We're concerned that pig is flavoring this pot. And now I'm going to want to make chicken soup in here, and I'm going to have chicken soup and matzah balls and celery and some pig-infused matzah balls. That's what I'm concerned about. And because of that, I cannot make kosher food inside of my pig pot. Now, after 24 hours, what happens to whatever pig was absorbed into the walls of the pot? It's still there, but what happened to it? It became what's called pagum. Pagum is what it sounds like. It got spoiled. Meaning, if you leave your steak out on the counter for 24 hours, are you going to eat it tomorrow night? Not if you're a single college student. I'm asking you, if you are leaving your food outside, what are you going to do? You're not going to touch that food after 24 hours. That food loses its halachic status as food. It's there, but it's not considered food anymore. And because in halakha, the only thing that we care about is taste, then if the taste is bad, this pot becomes palve and it becomes kosher all over again. And if tomorrow you wanted to make kosher chicken soup for Shabbat, you would be allowed to do that. So says the Torah. Along come the rabbis of the Talmud. And the rabbis of the Talmud say, listen, it's really nice that you're telling me I can make pig yesterday and today I can make chicken soup because after 24 hours it's alright. But what happens if the person at home, they didn't set a timer the last time they made pig in their pot? So they're going to wait 22 and a half hours. It was about dinner time yesterday. The food that they make inside of this pot, is it kasher or is it not kasher? It's not kasher. It's pig flavored soup according to halakha. And therefore, our rabbi said, every pot or pan or utensil retains its not kosher status until you make it kosher actively. So everything I told you until now was a lie, because it's only true according to the Torah. But according to our rabbis, this pot is going to be a pig pot until you make it kosher. This pan, if you make pancakes in this is a pan. If you make pancakes in this pan, these are going to stay chametz, even though after 24 hours on a Torah level, are these chametz anymore? No. But according to the rabbis, this stays chametz until you make it kosher. How do you make something kosher?
Boiled water.
So there has to be a rule, because boiling water won't work for everything, and not all heat will working for everything.
The same way it became.
Very good. Sarah.
Keep on
The
open.
rabbi and the rabbinate. The same way, kashem shebel'o, the same way it absorbs flavor, kach polto, that's the way it gives off flavor. So let's talk to you about your barbecue. I don't have a barbecue.
The book.
Okay. This is my barbecue, yeah? I have my barbecue. What kind of chametz are you making in your barbecue?
Pita maybe.
Buns?
Buns.
Okay, buns, pitas, what else you putting here? Let's say you're making kebabs and then you found out that your friend is bringing another friend, and you don't have enough food over there. So what do? You pull an Israeli move on them. You take a cup of flour, and you add it in. And now you mix it inside. Those kebabs, they're not real kebabs, but are they kasher? Yes. Are they chametz?
Yes.
Yes. So now you have over here buns and pitas and boiling hot kebabs that have wheat flour inside of them. How did this become chametz, my grill? Through fire. Actual fire. Real hot fire. Was there any kind of liquids over here underneath my bread or underneath my burgers?
No.
Not really. Put the oil of the kebab aside. And therefore the way I make this kosher, just like it became chametz or not kosher or whatever, insert over there the status of the food, just like it became there through fire, that's the way that I have to make it kasher. So therefore this would need to be made kasher through putting it back in the fire once it has already been cleaned and once it has already waited how many hours? 24 hours. You put it back in the fire, you light the barbecue again a second time, you let it burn itself out in your clean grill. Clean. What does clean mean? It's not like when you go to some people's houses and they still have last week's hot dogs stuck to the grill. That's not clean. Clean is you cleaned it well. And then you burned it out after 24 hours. Everything that you make on this grill is now kosher for Pesach. That's how you make fire kosher for Pesach. Remember my pot with the pig soup? This pig soup, how did it become not kosher? How did the pot become not kosher? On a liquid on a stovetop. How do I make this kasher? With liquid on a stovetop. So what do? I wait, I clean it well. I then wait 24 hours. I put it back on the stove and I boil water up until the tippy top. And right as the water is about to bubble over, you take something else, you drop it inside, it spills over onto your stovetop. My wife is ready to kill me, but at least the pot is kasher. There's an easier way to do that. If you take a pot that's bigger than this one, this is my big pot, and you boil this on the stove, and now the water here is boiling, you drop in this pot, and this pot is now kosher for Pesach, kosher for whatever you want to use it for. What? How long does it have to be in there? That's a fantastic question. How long do you think it has to be in there?
The water is hot. It boils. Until the water boils again.
To absorb.
So you're right. It has to be fully immersed. What else? Tell me. You have to give me a heat. Which
reaches the same temperature as
it has to reach the same temperature as it was the first time. My thing to tell you is, you can imagine how long a pot has to be in there, that if you would take it out and you touch it, you would get burned. It's probably not more than a minute. I don't know. Less even. Depends what kind of pot. Yeah, you're right. If you bring one of those caterer pots, it might be there for 10 minutes.
Unlike the mikveh, it doesn't have to go immersed in one go. It can be parts of it.
That's right. It's different. That's right.
So the same thing for the barbecue.
The subtle scheme of things on. Yeah, it's going okay. Now.
For the fire, same thing, a few minutes until you would consider that if you touched it, you would burn yourself?
Yes.
Same
Yes.
Okay.
That's right. Now, anything that you use in fire, is fire hotter than my boiling pot of water? Yes. So I can make my pot kosher in the fire, but I cannot make my grill kosher in a pot. It has to be higher, not lower. Does that make sense? Now, my plate, my fork, my ladle. I take the soup, the food, whatever it is, and I put it on my plate. How did this become chametz? Oh, that's a ladle, thank you. How did this become chametz? By being immersed in a hot pot that's on the fire. So how do I make this kosher for Pesach? I dip it inside of hot water. Correct? That's boiling. My plate and my fork. How did this plate become chametz? Let me make an argument that this plate never really had food on it that was hot enough to really make it chametz. But let's pretend it was food that came from a pot, that went into a ladle, that went on a plate. This is a very low grade thing to me. And then the fork that you put in the plate, that's already, it's not even a story. So if you wanted to be super strict, what you would do is you would lay out all your plates and your cups and your whatever it is you wanted. You would take the boiling hot water from the pot, you would spill it all over these things, and these now become kosher for Pesach. I have an easier shortcut. It's a life hack. 2 different ones. Yes?
I was going to say, since you mentioned that it wasn't, it's not hot enough,
That's right. I'm going to get to that right after my life hack.
What they made that.
One second. It doesn't make a difference. I'm right now going to talk to you about how you can use, putting things inside your barbecue is risky business. So really, the things that you use in your oven, like the pans that go in your oven.
Inside your barbecue?
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to go take those into your barbecue, or you don't have to do a blowtorch. I once came to a Pesach hotel. It wasn't for Pesach. I don't go to Pesach hotels on Pesach, but I was there for a wedding, and I was a mashgiach for this wedding, and I came behind to the back of the thing, and the guy's like, "Are you a rabbi?" I said, "Get out of my kitchen." I was supposed to supervise the event. I didn't want to get out of the kitchen. So you know what the last rabbi did here? I love those stories. What did the last rabbi do here? So the last rabbi came with a blowtorch. And he blowtorched everything in his kitchen. The countertops, the pots, the pans, everything turned black first off. All of his stuff became black. He said, and then, you have to understand, this rabbi must have been a real genius. I've said this before in a class, that in the commercial kitchens, they have a special dishwasher. It's a long plastic conveyor belt. And it goes, basically you put a dish here, and it rides through, it gets sprayed with water, sprayed with soap, sprayed with hot water, at the end it gets dried, and then it comes out at the end and someone else is busy drying it up with a towel and stacking it in crates. That's how it works in a commercial kitchen. Not like your dishwasher at home. The main part of this machine is the conveyor belt that goes like this. This rabbi decided he had to make the conveyor belt kosher for Pesach. So what did he do? He blowtorched it. Clearly this rabbi didn't pass, he didn't go to a yeshiva that had secular education, and therefore he didn't know that plastic melts under fire. He said, "Rabbi, you don't understand. We have the biggest Passover operation of our life. And all of a sudden the dishwasher doesn't work because it became one long piece of plastic." You think the rabbi paid for it?
No.
You know how much the dishwashers cost? Chilul Hashem, the desecration of Hashem's name. You know what else he blowtorched? While we're at the topic. Sometimes you go to these fancy events. There are people, they know how to make things look fancy. Like if I were to set up a table, it would just be food in the middle. They have these little glass, they look like, they put them in windows sometimes. They're like a big square of glass. They put fruit platters on them or whatever else. So he decided that those things, because they were on the table at the same time that there might have been chametz once upon a time, he blowtorched them also. So he went through all of our glass vases, our squares, and he blew them all to pieces. All in the name of making things kasher for Pesach. So he violated a biblical prohibition of stealing from people. He didn't pay them back for it. And it was all in the name of Hashem. So there was the additional biblical prohibition of desecrating Hashem's name in vain. All just because he needed his vase for the roses to be kosher for Passover. See, when you don't know how well, you do silly things. You might think that silly things are inconsequential, but they really make a big difference to the people around you. They make a difference to the families you're going to be celebrating Pesach with. They make a difference to the way the world looks at the Jewish community. And you think, what's the big deal if we do that? There's a big deal, and I'll talk to you about the big deals in just a little bit. Back to my temperature. You asked about temperatures. I'm on camera, but I am at this point in my LA career where I don't care anymore. It can't get worse than it already is. So, let's use colors. This is my meat bowl plate, and this is my dairy plate with my dairy spoon. My meat plate, my meat spoon. What is this made out of? Give me a material.
Ceramic.
China. You want to use China?
China.
Oh.
Ceramic. We can talk about glass.
No, don't make glass. Wait.
Ceramic.
Do they have cast iron bowls?
No.
Glass.
No.
Okay, let's say ceramic. A glazed ceramic, please.
Uh-huh.
Do me a favor. Now this ceramic that I have here, if my wife uses this to serve meat on it, and she uses this to eat the meat with, how hot was the meat that went on this plate? Let's make it boiling hot. She took it straight off the grill and put it on the plate, okay? It's really hot meat. So this plate, is it meat?
Yes.
Yes. Is it within 24 hours?
Yes.
Yes. Now I wake up in the morning and I can't find this one because I didn't wash it yesterday. And I didn't wash it. My dishwasher is melted into one piece of plastic, so I can't put it in there. So what do I do? What do I do? I want to have cereal and milk. Let's convert it to a bowl for a second. I go take my wife's chicken soup bowl, and I take her chicken soup spoon, and I pour my cereal and my milk, and then I sit down at the table, and I eat my cereal with milk. Have I done anything wrong?
How many hours?
2 hours.
It's cold.
It's cold. Cold does not transfer flavor. Only heat transfers flavor. And therefore, technically, According to halakha, if you use meat or milk or chametz or pesach, whatever you use, with cold things, it doesn't make a difference. It's always going to stay kasher. Why? Because taste doesn't transfer without heat. Isn't that rule? Taste doesn't transfer without heat. So now my mother said, well, it makes a difference what kind of material it is, doesn't it? We mentioned metal. We mentioned glass. Now we're going to mention glass. Glass. When you make a boiling hot chicken soup in a glass bowl, tomorrow morning you wash it out and you make oatmeal in that bowl. Can you taste chicken soup in your oatmeal?
No. Me?
I will give you, no, I'm saying about that. I will give you $100. Okay. If you will bring me the oatmeal that you made in the chicken soup bowl that's made out of glass, that you can taste the chicken inside of it. Maran Rabbi Yosef Karo on the Shulchan Aruch says, glass does not absorb flavor ever, not through heat, not through cold, never. And therefore glass always stays palvin, it always stays kosher for Pesach. If someone, if someone an hour ago made pig lasagna inside of your, that didn't sound good, you know? Pig lasagna inside of your glass serving utensil in the oven at 500 degrees. And you clean it, it doesn't taste good. And you clean it out with water, with soap, it's clean. I mean, there's no residue on this thing. And now you decide that you want to make your meat and potatoes for the Pesach Seder in there. Meatballs and potatoes for the Pesach Seder in that same glass. You don't have to do anything aside from wash it well. You put your meat and potatoes, you put it in the oven, and glass is glass. It never becomes not kosher. Unless you're Ashkenazi. According to Ashkenazim, glass is considered earthenware. Because the origin of glass is sand. And the Ramah says that Ashkenazim have a custom not to use the glass of chametz for Pesach. Here's the problem. He only says that by Pesach, which leads most Ashkenazi authorities, not the ones that write the little articles that you might be reading. My father-in-law, he's pretty Ashkenazi and pretty ultra-Orthodox. In their communities, they use glass for meat and for milk and for everything the whole entire year. Only for Pesach, Ashkenazim have a stringency not to use glass that's chametz for Pesach. But the rest of the year, there never was such a custom. I've asked and I've researched and I've asked, not your generation, not your parents' generation, I've asked grandparents. Do you remember ever in your life having 2 sets of glass for the year? Some told me that even for Pesach they use the same glass. But that for sure, only by Pesach there was such a custom. And not the rest of the year.
Is there a difference with Pyrex and glass?
Is there a difference with Pyrex and glass? The poskim fight about Pyrex a lot. My feeling about Pyrex is that Pyrex doesn't absorb. And it's something you could try. You have to trust yourself. Try it out once. Make a really pungent, you want to try it? Go buy yourself all the hot peppers you can get in the store and cook them in your Pyrex utensils. Clean it out. And then boil water in there and taste the water. If you could taste those peppers, then Pyrex absorbs. But again, I'm lowering it to $100. I'm lowering it to $50. If you could taste your jalapenos in there, I'll pay you $60. For real.
So hotels that have utensils that have also glass bowls, glass
None of those things need to be made kosher for Pesach.
can be used.
They can also, you can use them the whole year.
Okay.
Yeah.
But do you have to wash them before Pesach?
If you didn't wash them the last time.
Let's say they're clean, but you wash them with a chametz sponge.
That's a great question. Let's talk about chametz sponges in just a minute. Yeah, that's a good question. If I forget to answer that by the end of this section, can you remind me?
Sure.
Thank you. So we talked about metal, we talked about glass. Wood, or those kind of things, you can make them kosher the same way you make metal kosher. Really, your pots and your pans, it's very easy to make those things kosher for Pesach. What's the more difficult part of your house to make kosher for Pesach? The appliances that are in your kitchen. Ovens, dishwashers, microwaves, sinks, toasters, what?
Refrigerator.
No.
Refrigerator, let's put it in there, why not? What else? Blenders, what is it? Countertops, floors, smoke detectors. Yeah, one day we're going to have meat and milk smoke detectors in people's kitchens. Garbage cans, don't laugh about that. Garbage cans. your teeth. I've heard that. Yeah. What else?
Speaking of teeth, no.
Speaking of teeth, I know a dentist. I know a few actually.
I've seen that there are either this is true. There's little covers for your faucet.
That's
Mess
right.
up. And I know someone personally who ended up changing their faucet for Benzaquen.
That's right. I know someone like that too, but we sent them to a mental health professional. I'm going to explain. That's actually a bit. You'll see this, and you're going to see this. So let's talk about it now. Now that you know the rule of how things become chametz and how those things can make your food chametz, you have to understand everything that you do on Pesach, your countertops, your sinks, everything is really only rabbinically prohibited. You understand? Because it's after 24 hours since the last time you used it, anyways, for chametz. So now you come into your rabbinically prohibited appliances in your kitchen. Remember, it's rabbinically prohibited. It doesn't mean it's not important. It just means it's not as important as things that come from the Torah. You come into your kitchen, and most of the time you come to someone's kitchen for Pesach, and you feel like you walked into a UFO spaceship. Jews must have stocks in aluminum foil. Because the amount of aluminum foil that people use on Pesach is unheard of. I can imagine that if forget recycling, if the Jews just stopped using aluminum foil on Pesach, we'd have saved the planet already. You come to someone's kitchen, the countertops are shiny, the cabinets are shiny, the stove is covered in aluminum foil, the refrigerator is lined with aluminum foil, you have the faucet is covered with whatever you want to cover, everything is covered, the knobs on the oven. Have you ever eaten from the knobs on your oven? You ever something splashed on the knob and you go, anyone done that before? Not in your whole life. Why you have to cover it, I don't know, but let's get there. The kitchen for Pesach. Where do you want to start? Start me on an appliance and we'll take it from there. Oven. Very good. Oven. Maran writes in chapter 108, Kuf Chet, in the Yoreh De'ah. Maran says, who's Maran? There's only one Maran. Other people want to call themselves Maran. There's only one Maran. Maran is Rabbi Yosef Karo, the author of the Shulchan Aruch, whose rulings I am teaching according to. Maran writes in chapter Kuf Chet in Shulchan Aruch that remember last year? Shlomo, where are you? Where's Shlomo?
It was a
story of my life. Where does Shlomo go? This last year caused an uproar on WhatsApp recordings that went around. How dare he say what it says in the Shulchan Aruch? Maran tells you, and I'm going to be very careful what I say this year. If you have an oven, and in that oven you want to put meat and milk, are you allowed to?
Together?
at the same time.
Yes.
Maran says that when you put them together, what do you mean meat and dairy? Let's give you a better example. Let's say kosher steak and a not kosher steak. Both cows. So don't go to pigs. Last year we got a problem. You have a glad kosher steak and the other. It's not glad kosher. It's tarif. It's not kosher. You put them in the same oven rack. Where? On the same racks. According to halakha, you really shouldn't do that. But the avad, it might be okay if they were far enough away from each other and if they didn't roll their juices to each other. But if you did it, no big deal. What happens if you take meat and dairy in separate pans, uncovered, and you put them in the same oven? Or you take meat, the kosher steak and the not kosher steak, you put them in the same oven. Maran says, according to halakha, you're not allowed to do this unless the oven is bigger than the size of your oven. That's already considered a big oven according to halakha. And so long as the oven is not fully sealed. What does fully sealed mean? Do you know what an oven used to look like in the times of Talmud? It was a sealed, it was a heat. If you go to Oaxaca, you can see this. You dig a hole in the ground, it's clay, you fill it up with meat, and then you seal it off with coals inside of there, and it cooks for 24 hours, and then you open the earth, and that's considered an oven halakha. But if your oven has vents inside of it, so it's a big oven and has vents, Maran says the chatchila, ideally, you can cook those things together in the same oven. The Ashkenazim, we talked about you now. The Ashkenazim, they have a stringency. What is the stringency of the Ashkenazim?
Separate.
They don't put it in the same oven at the same time. Once you take out the meat, you can put in the dairy. Once you take out the dairy, you can put in the meat. That is the Ashkenazi stringency.
Some even have separate ovens.
I'm going to get there. told you, no street Ashkenazi. Only rabbis are Ashkenazi. The Chachmei Ashkenaz, they say it's better to just rotate them one and one and one and one. And therefore, from here you learn that your oven can never become not kasher. But for Pesach, we like to be strict. So if you clean out your oven,
Oh, you're saying because it can be put together simultaneously.
it
that
tells you the oven is not. Yeah. Therefore, your oven. How do you make your oven kosher for Pesach? You clean it. You clean it, and then you put it on for how long? The highest temperature it can go, 500 degrees. For how long?
1 hour.
They say 1 hour, but I think 30 minutes should be just fine. Because once you have 30 minutes, you wouldn't touch the inside of your oven, would you? That's good enough. You want to do an hour? Call Kavod. Do an hour. You must have a relative in the gas and electric company. Someone's making money from that. An hour. So your oven, how do you make oven kosher for Pesach? Clean it and burn it out. Next, yeah.
If it's a self-cleaning oven, do you even have to clean it, or can you just put it on self-cleaning?
So I don't know how self-cleaning actually works. I think self-cleaning doesn't go around. There are no little fairies that scrub your oven clean. What you have to do is first clean it and then do it. Yeah.
People usually break their oven before Pesach.
That's right. You don't have to self-clean an oven. It's not true. There's no. You didn't cook on self-clean, so you don't have to make it kosher on self-clean.
What about microwave?
No, that's the next appliance. What about a microwave?
Very easy.
Anyone here know a little bit about microwaves? Anyone study electricity before? When you heat up something in the microwave, let's say what? Let's say I put my food. My father once went to upstate New York to go visit us in the summer camps over there, and he stopped at this restaurant in upstate New York. I'm not saying English, I can't imagine how many restaurants are there. And he went in there and he ordered a steak. How did they make a steak? They took it out of the freezer. They put it on a plate. They popped it into the microwave, and they pressed 25 minutes. At the end, they brought him salt and pepper shaker. Please enjoy your rubber tire however you like. Let's imagine you cook something in your microwave for 25 minutes. Now you open your microwave, and you touch the walls of the microwave. Is your hand going to burn?
No.
Heaven. Your microwave doesn't get hot enough to even require it to become kasher in the first place. Your microwave can be used for meat, and then for milk, and then for meat, and then for milk, assuming that your microwave doesn't look like that dormitory I once visited. I once went to a dormitory of some guys, and I opened the microwave, and there were things growing in there. Organisms, different colors. It was pretty. It was like, if you were into National Geographic, there's greens and blues and whites, different things. Most people's microwave is clean. Assuming your stuff doesn't splatter all over the microwave, your microwave is always kasher, and you can use it the whole year for meat and milk. And for Pesach, we like to always do a little bit more for Pesach, especially since according to the Ashkenazim, sometimes steam of food or splatter of food can create a problem. So it's a very easy fix. You clean your microwave. Your glass thing, does it have to be made kosher? No, because it's glass, right? So only the walls, which don't even get hot in the first place, but maybe the splatter was hot. So you take a cup of water, and you boil it for 2 minutes inside of the microwave. You make a little bit of steam. Your microwave got its once a year sauna, and your microwave is now kasher for Pesach. What else? Dishwasher.
Before,
Yes.
on the microwave, so the glass thing is the turntables on the plastic ring.
That's right.
So the plastic ring is that an issue?
You don't eat from them, and you don't make food on them. They're only holding up the glass thing that you put other glass things are on top of it.
Right,
That's not a problem.
okay.
That's good.
So dairy products that are made in dairy equipment,
Oh.
so they're considered for kosher? I mean, is it dairy or?
Tell me what you're asking. You want to know if mocha mix is parv or not?
That's the issue.
Tell me what you're really asking. We'll tell you. If you have at the end of this
I
class,
don't even know.
I'm going to take all the controversial questions you want to know. I'm going to turn off the camera, and I'm going to answer them off the cuff. No holds barred. So be prepared. Yes.
Going back to the oven, so at any time you want to cook meat or dairy, there is no waiting in between and there is no reheating in between.
That's right.
Right?
Just making sure there's no splatter.
Right.
And the way you can do that is something to sell those microwave covers.
No, I'm talking about oven.
Oh, oven. No, wait. Just no. Yeah,
Right?
right away.
So one at a time,
Yes.
meat,
Yes.
meat, dairy,
Yes.
and then microwave, same.
Yes.
Okay.
One second, the oven though, if it's covered, we do it at the same.
I know, but she mentioned according to the second opinion that we mentioned. Yes. Okay, toaster oven, you're not talking about the one that pops things out, the one with the door that looks like an oven. Toaster oven is too small to be able to have meat and milk inside of it at the same time, but one after the other, if it's clean, is okay. Yeah, that's a good question.
Going back to the first idea, if my lasagna is covered and my steak is covered,
Yeah, it's okay.
do together.
It's okay.
Speaking of that.
Now, who was telling me about, what was the next thing we said? Dishwasher. How many people here eat from their dishwasher?
I had once.
Don't laugh. I once went somewhere and they served salmon that was in the dishwasher.
Yeah.
Poached salmon.
Yeah. Yes.
I will not tell you which religious ethnicity they came from, Jewish background.
Before water
It was,
became so expensive.
Before water was so expensive.
there's a book like that of a rabbi who was a rabbi in a yeshiva in Israel. And he said the yeshiva students there used to do all kinds of crazy things. They would heat up pizza in the dryer. And they want to know if now the dryer is Halevy or Benzaquen. I'm not dealing with crazy people, regular people. Your dishwasher. Your dishwasher. Maran writes in the Shulchan Aruch. How do you used to wash dishes in the olden days? Yada yore. What is yore? A pot. What is a pot? Imagine a big one, right? And you take your meat forks and your dairy forks and your chametz ones, and how do you make them kosher? You boil this on a fire.
So
Yeah? Cauldron, that's right. You remember those old pictures from? And then you put some detergent in here. What do you put in here? Soap, lemony fresh, whatever you put in there. You put in your utensils. Says Maran, it's not a problem. The meat can be dirty, the dairy can be dirty. It could all be inside of the dishwasher, the cup, the bowl at the same time. Why? Because the soap, what flavor does it give the not kosher mixture? A bad one. Do you want to eat soap? In yeshiva, when I was in yeshiva in Baltimore, they used to serve pizza. How would they do it? They would order pizza like 3 years in advance. They would freeze them. And they would take it out of the freezer in time for lunch. It was Tuesday afternoon lunch, I think. And they would layer them on large caterer pans, and they would reheat them in the oven. The problem is that whoever was responsible for drying the dishes after they were washed never dried the dishes. And the bottom of the pizza was always cooked inside of a little thin layer of lemon-scented dishwashing soap.
Oh no.
And so on this side of the pizza, it smelled like pizza. And this side of the pizza, it smelled like dishwasher detergent. I survived for 5 years. I didn't die from that. But that's not, it's not edible. That's not supposed to be the way food tastes. Lemony fresh soap is not a flavor that you're worried about. And therefore, so long as there's soap, Maran says you can put dirty dishes and all together. So talk to me about your dishwasher. When you run a dishwasher cycle, you can put in meat and milk and chametz and kosher for Pesach and all those things all together. And you run a dishwashing cycle with detergent. And it's okay to do that together. Rabbi Yosef ruled this way. He used to do that himself. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein wanted to be strict that maybe you should have meat racks and dairy racks, but the reasoning is not really understood to us. And Lamasa, you don't have to make your dishwasher kosher for Pesach. If you want to be super strict, just run an empty cycle in your dishwasher if it makes you feel good. But dishwashers don't even make kosher for Pesach because you don't eat out of your dishwashers. What else?
So
An empty
even
cycle with soap or without soap, does it matter?
It's a great question. With soap, you have the ma'ala, you have the added benefit of anything that was left, any food residue becomes soap flavored. Without soap, you have the ma'ala, the benefit that you can make things, it can kosher whatever is in the dishwasher. That was my life hack. I didn't tell you guys. If you want to make your pots, your pans that go in the oven kosher, you can just put them in the oven on 500 degrees, let them get hot enough that they would burn you if you would touch them, and that's absolutely okay to make your things kosher for Pesach. If you want to take all these utensils, not the pots and the pans that went on the stove directly, all the plates and the cups and the spoons, and you put them in the dishwasher and you run them on a cycle without soap. So maybe one soap cycle to clean them, and then one cycle just to wash them in boiling hot water. That's considered kosher, and you don't have to pour water. You don't have to make a mess. You just take the things and load them inside of your dishwasher.
What about
Some
barbecue?
Muslims say that once you add something, you can only be machshir with water. Just a thing.
Body,
Yes.
the body of barbecue.
The body of,
Barbecue. Like they do chocolate barbecue.
unless you're eating what falls in there, you don't have to worry about it.
What about for Pesach?
You clean your grill.
Just clean.
Yeah.
so,
Next.
We say it depends what they made of.
Right, metal and always, yeah.
so with the dishwasher, I've always learned that the plastic racks are an issue. But you're saying you don't.
The
You don't
plastic
hold
racks
the
that,
plastic racks
let's
that you
imagine the
put-
worst case scenario.
Yeah.
The plastic rack absorbed what? What did it absorb in there?
Chametz, obviously.
Chametz, yes?
That's what we're talking.
And now you ran a cycle in there with soap.
So it's pagum.
So it's pagum. And the fact that it was hot water means that if it could absorb anything, it was already expleted back out in the same temperature of hot water that it absorbed. So what could be the problem there? I don't have an answer to that.
Ashkenazi guests are the problem.
No, they're not a problem because even it's not an Ashkenaz Sephardic thing. This is a logic thing versus a non-logical thing. According to logic, there's no reason why you would think that the racks would maintain any kind of chametz status on Pesach.
Well,
Yeah.
Can I say? For the Pesach programs,
yes,
those hotel dishwashers,
right.
that everybody pays lots of money for, they're all plastic racks. So for a hotel dishwasher for Pesach, it's okay to become kosher for Pesach. But for a person in an apartment who's
If
newly
he-
married, it's not, that's a problem.
He's right. The rabbi's right. If you would go to a kosher for Pesach, the strictest, most
Right.
Ashkenazi kosher for Pesach hotel, they almost don't make anything kosher for Pesach. They're pouring bleach on everything. They're making everything kagum. That's all they do. It's not a
Just make it
problem.
puzzle.
So why people will not do the same thing in their house that they would do in the hotel, I don't know. I'm not sure. That's a good question, but the answer is that it's not a problem.
Okay.
Okay, what are you asking?
I just want to clarify, so you said you can take your glass dishes and your metal utensils, just pop them in the dishwasher and that's...
If they're not used in direct heat, but they're only eaten off of with hot food, when they're not cooking utensils, they're eating utensils, yeah, that's absolutely all right. I actually brought that in my book. It's not in the first printing of my book, but in the second printing, and now in the third printing, I mentioned that in my book as well.
Oh, so not clearly shown.
Yes, not what's on the fire itself, actually. It's anything else that was used in contact with boiling things.
The dish is considered as par or still keeps its status?
If it becomes kosher, then it would be considered par.
So you could put all your silverware in the dishwasher.
I
and
do
then
that every
without
year.
soap.
Yes.
That makes
Yes.
it much easier.
It makes it much easier. You don't have to worry about boiling water anymore. Yes.
But
What if you do warm up something in the microwave, it gets hot enough, so it's got to let it, is that considered a rishon because it's in the microwave and you cooked on that plate?
Then make it kosher in the microwave.
No, I'm just wondering, because sometimes you take a plate and you
It's hot.
warm up and you warm up
That's
food.
still not a clear.
It's not considered a rishon then.
sometimes it's
Maybe,
that select.
maybe, and therefore, but that's still not hotter than the boiling water in the dishwasher.
It could be.
I don't think it is.
No?
If you ever, no.
Water once.
Let's talk about your next appliance or whatever else is in your kitchen.
Water can't get any hotter than steam, but
Right.
the pressure. Other than that, boiling.
But the
boiling,
dishes,
boiling, and then it evaporates.
no, but
Thank
the
you, doctor.
dishes could be hotter.
He's right. That's the truth.
The dishes could be hotter because they're not made of water. So they might be made of a material that can reach a temperature higher than 212 degrees.
In your microwave.
Right, sometimes when you, certain kinds of stoneware, when you try to take it out of the microwave, it's super, super hot. And
Okay.
you can't touch
Listen,
it.
that's the reason why HaShamayim were a little bit more careful with ceramic and those kind of things. Yes.
So I don't know if this is true, but most houses' water heaters only go up to like 120 degrees. Does the
Because they're worried
dishwasher-
about safety.
Right, does the dishwasher get it hotter than anything?
It does. In fact, in my book, I mentioned how hot a dishwasher.
The-
Commercial
the-
versus residential dishwashers also have different heats.
The
Let's-
heater, the bottom.
Let's talk about. We didn't talk about your countertops. We didn't talk about your sinks. You want to talk about the sinks?
And also, what
Stove.
about-
I'll go back to the microwave for a second.
Stove cooker,
I'll go
yes.
back to- So in the microwave that I have, and just moved from New York, so it's not, it was here, not the newest model, but it has like little vent things in there, like little holes.
Don't hug.
So theoretically, if you're making a chumetz dika thing, I'm sorry for my
That's
Yiddish,
okay.
if it offends you.
Doesn't affect me at all.
And the hummus splatters into the spots, into the whole, and then it could splatter back in the Pesach time. So how is that? How can you justify that?
After 24 hours, all of that becomes not food, anyways. Since you're telling me that there's not actually, it's not like I'm looking in there and there's residue. I'm assuming that maybe once it's splattered in there, that assumption is not enough of a reason to prohibit something on Pesach. The what if, this is maybe an important conversation to have right now. All the rules of Pesach that start with what if, those are not found anywhere in the books of Halakha. In Halakha, you cannot create problems just because you invented in your mind a scenario where it could be problematic. It has to actually be a realistic scenario that happens. Albert Einstein once said, avoid people who come up with problems for every solution. And in the laws of Pesach and Kashrut, they're always, what, maybe over here, maybe over there. That maybe is not enough of a reason to constitute an actual halachic concern on Pesach. All right, talk to me about your sinks. Oh, what do you want to talk about?
One more question. What about dishes that you put on a hot plate? Can you still wash that in the dishwasher?
Dishes that you put on a hot plate? Like what?
Like a bowl.
It doesn't break on your hot plate?
It's special for that.
Then that's the way that you should make it kosher. Plug in your hot plate in a fridge. Put water in there, and like what I said about the things that go on the stove, that's the go on the hot plate. You asked about the stove, about the sink. The stove top. stovetops, can they be used for both meat and milk? What are stovetops? What do I mean by stovetop? If the stovetop is glass, is there a problem? Not at all. There's no kashrut problems. All you have to do is wipe it down. If there are coils or some kind of metal, how do you make those kasher for Pesach? Let me ask the question. Do you eat off of your stovetop?
No.
Well, some people might. You ever been stirring pasta and it pops out onto the stovetop? 2-second rule. And if you use, like me, if you use your stovetops, all of them for meat and milk together, anything that pops out of the stove, of the pot, onto the stovetop, the whole year is considered not kosher. Maran and Halakha, we record that this stovetop has a status of food that meat and milk mixes frequently over there, and therefore you're allowed to cook. If I had a pot of pig and a pot of kosher food, and they were right next to each other on 2 different stovetops, don't worry. For the OCD people, okay? Pig and pig pot. And kosher. And they're boiling on 2 different stovetops, they're touching each other. Does the flavor of the food go between these pots? No. What if I go like that?
Same.
There's no like shomer negiah about pots. There's no it's not an issue. And therefore they're allowed to touch each other, whatever they want to do. There's no mixed dancing. That's a no. Therefore, what's the difference if the stovetop is not kosher and you put a pot on it versus if you're doing that? Nothing. Your stovetop doesn't have to be kosher at all. The only consequence of not maintaining a kosher stovetop or mixing meat and milk is that anything that falls out of the pot the whole year onto the stovetop, we're stringent and we throw it away. We don't put it back in the pot. Does that make sense? Yes. Now, for Pesach, if you wanted to make sure that you don't want your stuff to fall out in the chametz, what you do is like everything else. You clean it well. Hopefully you can wait 24 hours. And then you turn on your burners for, how long do they need to be till they get burning hot? 15 minutes? Less?
Yes, yeah.
Burning hot?
Yeah. 10 minutes, fine. Whatever number you want, turn them on, and those are kasher the Pesach. You don't have to do anything else. To put aluminum foil, I'm going to tell you now, a public safety warning. For those people who cover their gas stovetops with aluminum foil, they are putting their entire family in danger. And those glass stovetops have built-in safety mechanisms to chaz v'shalom prevent gas leaks or anything else that happens. Anybody who thinks that they're keeping an extra Pesach by covering their ranges with aluminum foil will not be, I'm telling you, I'm not afraid. After 120 years, not only will they not get extra credit, Hadosh Baruch Hu will say everything they did for Pesach was not worth it. We break every Torah violation to save a person's life. And to put people's lives in danger, you tell me maybe it's unrealistic. It happens every year. Families die in their houses, people get burned, all kinds of things that happen. Get poisoned by gas. It's not a game. Don't play games with halakha. Your stovetop is okay without being covered at all.
When you
What
say
about-
if you,
Sorry.
when you cook meat and meat on the same stove pot, meaning there are some people that have separate ones?
Yes.
Oh.
What was it?
So, you're saying you don't need to cover around the grates with aluminum foil and the surface with aluminum foil, but the back of it, which gets splattered with stuff all the time and doesn't get hot when you're koshering it. So
Let's do this together with countertops, okay? I'm going to lump in the back of the stove with the countertops. Give me a scenario. Can this be my countertop? Yes, this is my countertop. I take boiling hot food, pot of food and I put it down. What is this? This is chametz. Let's make it chametz. I put it down. Does that transfer any flavor to the countertop?
No.
Regardless of what material the countertop is. It's very hot though.
No.
It doesn't transfer flavor. What's the only time in which it would transfer flavor? Is if I took out the pig from here and I put it on my countertop and I started cutting it up on my countertop. That would be a problem of pig being on that countertop. That's right? Who does that in their house? The only people who actually cut on the countertop are
men. I like the answer.
Can you imagine if I would say that about ladies? Can you imagine what happened to me? Yeah. Now, someone else had a nicer word for men. We call them chefs. Chefs. What do the chefs do? They have these stainless steel countertops and they actually process food. I'm not talking to chefs. If you're a chef, come talk to me later. Your countertop is not normally a food utensil. You don't put that food that's hot, not cold, not talking about grapes and tomatoes. Your food, your count doesn't come in contact with boiling hot food. And if it did, now you're going to tell me about splatter. I put it down, and as I put it down, it splattered some sauce over there. So I clean up the sauce over here. Now give me a scenario in which the sauce that was absorbed in my countertop is going to pose any kind of kashrut issue for me. Give me an example. I have my kosher for Pesach eggs. Yeah, let's give an example. And then I put it down on top of the absorbed chametz pig sauce. What is the status of my eggs in my frying pan? They're kosher, they're fine. What are the chances that the eggs that splatter out of my pan are going to land in the exact same spot as the pig chametz sauce within the same 24 hours that it was absorbed here, and in a situation where you didn't clean up the countertop with some kind of cleaning agent that already made that flavor pagum? Give me the scenario.
And you're going to eat it.
Right, very good, thank you. And you're going to eat it after it fell on the countertop. I want someone please give me a realistic scenario in which that will happen.
So let's say you're frying.
I'm waiting for an answer.
Let's say you're frying schnitzel.
Yeah, let's say frying schnitzel.
And it splatters on the back of the stove.
Okay.
Okay, and then you're boiling milk in a pot on the same burner, and it touches the splatter of oil and meat and chametz, and the milk is steaming. So then you have a pot. Doesn't your pot have an issue? Maybe
No.
your food doesn't have an issue, but doesn't your pot have an issue?
No. That's not, nothing's happening here.
This is like a whole new kashrut.
No, let me explain. No, this is the whole original kashrut. Everything that came afterwards is a whole new kashrut. Because it doesn't follow any of the rules of logic, nor the rules of the Mishnah, the Talmud, the Rambam, the Shulchan Aruch.
But if you have chicken oil
Yes.
on your dairy pot and it's hot, so why does the pot not become treif?
Are you cooking on the outside of the pot?
She's saying it's going to go through the pot and be absorbed here.
No, she's not talking about the food. She's talking about the
Outside of the side of the pot.
Yeah.
But you're giving me a scenario which within 24 hours,
Yes.
this chicken splatter is there, and my pot is so hot that it's reheating the chicken splatter,
Yes.
and it goes through my pot into my food.
Well, I don't know if it goes through the pot. But
If it
that's-
doesn't go through the pot, then
But
what?
that's what I was taught.
Right.
I was taught it goes through the pot.
So my wife went to the same school. Yeah. Hold on, Chava, that's a scenario. It's a scenario, but it's not one that I believe is realistic to happen. And you're assuming that there's enough chicken splatter that would go through the pot that's not nullified in 60 with the amount of liquid that's inside of here. That's a tremendous amount of chicken grease that got splattered and didn't get cleaned up.
Oh no, it's
I
pretty
know,
messy when you make schnitzel.
I know.
What about the pot itself?
Yeah, that's what she's asking about.
The pot stays.
Or what if you're frying eggs in butter, and the butter and the steam comes up and it makes the chicken grease wet, and then it can, then there's condensation and it comes back into the eggs with the butter.
So all the rain in the world used to once be toilet water. And it goes up and condensation comes back down. We all drink it.
Right.
We don't deal with condensation in halakha. There are rabbis who do. We don't. Yes.
No, go ahead.
Are we done?
Oh,
I'm done.
Yes.
Going back to the...
I could monopolize the whole evening, but I'm not going to.
Your questions are good.
Yes.
The sci-fi that I learned from my
Yes.
mother and my grandmother,
Yes.
the aluminum everywhere. So I thought of a scenario. If you look at a lot
Let's listen to the scenario.
counters, so they have, in the counter there's like a split, and the split, like a split line, and into that split line could easily have gone chametz.
Right.
Of course, you asked, you sell the chametz or whatever, but you have to do, and you're not going to take apart your counter for Pesach to pull out from the crease.
Not yet. Give it 10 years.
Okay, but
They'll do it.
I know. So then I could think of that's a rationale to have covering counters and the sci-fi.
Why? What the chametz that's there?
Yeah.
It's pagum.
It's long not chametz anymore by the time Pesach rolls around.
It's an assumption.
Well, if you spray it with
A true
Windex.
assumption. It's waited 24 hours. It's definitely been cleaned before. It might not even be there. It's not big enough to pose a chametz. Even if that crumb that's there would go to your... A cookie crumb is not going to make a problem to your food that you make before Pesach. And once 24 hours pass on Pesach, it's not going to make a problem for you because it's not any more chametz according to halakha. I'll tell you the truth. I'm willing and I can sit with you, especially if Fuad will stick around with me, the whole night and discuss scenarios. And I'll tell you that all of them could exist. But all of them will be, and I appreciate the word used, was science fiction. They're all going to stay within the realm of science fiction, not in the realm of halakha.
So you're saying not to cover counters?
Absolutely. My rabbi, I'll tell you a story. Halevy once came home, and he saw that his countertops were all covered with aluminum foil. And he told his wife, he said, my dear wife, why did you cover the countertops with aluminum foil? He says, don't answer. You have one of two answers. Either because it's for kashrut reasons, or because you like the way that aluminum foil, she's okay, don't worry. Or you like the way that aluminum foil looks in your kitchen on Pesach. She says, well, she's Lopez's wife, she's not even Joe Schmo. She says, Harav, what is the difference between those two answers? He says, well, if you're doing this according to halakha, then right now I'm going to start ripping off the aluminum foil until I finish the whole kitchen. She said, but if you decide that this is the way you chose to decorate the kitchen for Pesach, well, I'm going to get involved. You're allowed to decorate the house however you want. Yes.
Did you discuss pouring boiling water on countertops? I must have missed it.
No, I said you don't have to make them kosher in the first place.
You don't even have to pour boiling
I once came at that man's kitchen and he was pouring water, putting down a towel, and then ironing the countertop so we have wet heat and direct heat.
I like this one.
He never ironed the whole year. So comes time for Pesach on the countertop. What else? Your hot water urn. Do you make chametz in there? No. The hot water urn doesn't have to be kasher to Pesach. Your sink. How can be a sink, please?
You don't eat out of the sink.
In the sink.
You don't eat out of the sink.
Who here eats out of their sink? Don't embarrass yourself by raising your hand.
Well, sometimes you could drop a grape in and pull it out.
But it's cold.
Yes.
In which situation do you have that in your sink, meat or chametz or dairy fell into the sink, and then within the same 24 hours, without being cleaned, without any soap, with anything else, you then had food that was boiling hot of the opposite gender, I'm going to use the word, and it fell in the same time, and you're like, oh wow, I like it, and you ate it. When in your life does that happen? Never. According to halakha, if you go to somebody's house and you see that they have a sink for meat and a sink for milk, you should go under the assumption that they just did not learn Shulchan Aruch sufficiently. There is no halachic rationale for having a meat in a dairy sink. In my house, I have a meat in a dairy sink. Why?
For the guests.
No, I don't care about the guests.
That's your wife wants.
I tell the guests, look, see, that's me, that's my rabbi, that's my smicha certificate. If you don't like that I'm connected to Moshe Rabbeinu, you can go somewhere else. Don't trust my kosher food. In my house, you're going to tell me what kasher is and not kasher.
For your parents.
It's why do you have two sinks? Because the tenants before me had two sinks. And they still had the stickers, meat and dairy, but those stickers have long fallen off. And sometimes I have guests, like Rabbi Yonatan's guests, and they come and they're like, oh, which is the meat sink? I say, the right one. And then a week later they'll be back for Shabbat. Oh, which one's the meat sink? The left one. Well, Rabbi, last week you said it was the right one. Busted.
And it doesn't matter what the sink is made out of.
Doesn't matter what the sink is made out of. Now, what's inside of your sink? Oh, yeah, ask your question, and then I'm going to get to her sponge, because I didn't forget.
What if you have meat and milk in the sink at the same time, and you're washing it out, it's hot water, and you're in this sort of cooking it, potentially?
That's a fantastic question. Recently someone brought this up. What about the hot water that's cooking? The hot water would have to be quite hot for it to violate a prohibition of cooking. How hot? It would have to be burning your hands.
Well, pasta water that you're pouring out of the
Let's get to his.
What was the question?
Maybe the hot. See, there's a prohibition not just of eating meat and milk, but of cooking meat and milk. So now there's meat and milk and there's hot water, and then maybe it's all cooking together. That could be a prohibition of cooking meat and milk. That water has to be very hot, and you're going under the assumption that there's no soap in there, and that all of those dishes have been used in the last 24 hours. If you wanted to be strict about a sink, I'll give in to your shunzi. You want? I'll give in. Don't put your meat and milk dishes in your sink at the same time until you're ready to wash them, and then you're okay. You want to? I'm not.
What about the sponge? Should we different to a sponge?
What about the sponge? Your sponge.
Yeah.
What is? Well, I have a sponge. Baruch Hashem.
You're good.
You eat from this sponge?
It's a Pagoo delivery device.
Very good. This is. Hold on.
Listen.
We have to give him credit. This for now is going to be called the PDD. a pigima delivery device. Great, I love it. In that case, this doesn't have to be kasher at all. You can use the same sponge for meat and for milk. Kach nahagu rabotai, kach nahagu avotai. One generation skip. All of our rabbis and our parents use the same sponges for meat and milk. Don't start making up new Judaism, please. Please. Sometimes it gets embarrassing. How many new rules can you make? When we lived in 100 years ago in a village somewhere, you think we had meat and milk with rivers? What do you wash your dishes? You think they had 2 sinks? They didn't have 1 sink. 2 ovens, 2 microwaves, 2 everything. People were dying of starvation. You know how much water you would have to go through? Today they make you check your vegetables in 1 little lettuce and 6 gallons of water. Somebody sitting in this room, he's a chacham. Yeah, you think in the village you went with your buckets to the well and you picked up enough water to wash all these things and all separate and all that? You think somebody did that? What about minhag avotenu? Every time I scream people, I mean minhag, 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 minhag. What about the minhag of your forefathers? Tradition. It's obvious that 100 years ago we didn't have 2 of all these things. So why now is it okay? What about violating tradition? Nobody has a good answer for that.
What about tables?
What about tables? Tables are like countertops, even better. Most of the time they're covered.
No, it's not like oven if something spills from the...
When's the next time somebody's going to spill in the same spot and you're going to eat it?
Sometimes.
Within 24 hours.
Within 24 hours.
Oh, within 24 hours.
So it's not a realistic scenario. Yes.
Don't cover it. I know I don't
Oh.
off of my KitchenAid, but
Your
there's
KitchenAid, you mean a mixer for...
so much flour. So much,
Especially
like,
the
in little
utensils.
crevices, and it's like almost like impossible to think I can possibly.
There's a problem with KitchenAid. The poskim do bring down, Maran included, that the things that we use to actually bake bread the whole year, the custom is that even though there are ways, if you needed to clean them, there is a way to make a KitchenAid kasher Pesach. But the poskim suggest that those things, we put them away. We clean them and then we put them away for Pesach. And particularly those things in which there is flour and you are going to be making more things inside of there, that could pose a problem. Even then, it's not a halakha, it's a custom that Jewish people have. There is a way to clean your KitchenAid. You just have to clean it very, very well. Spend maybe an hour cleaning your KitchenAid, and it's going to be... I mean, there's nothing you cannot make kasher if you really needed to. But the poskim record that there is this custom. There are similar customs, and these are not light customs. For example, I'm sure many people here have a custom to swing chickens over their head before Yom Kippurim. I'm not here to talk about that particular custom, but are you allowed to slaughter an animal on Yom Tov?
Yes.
Yeah, of course. How are you going to eat on the second day of a holiday? Of course. On Rosh Hashanah, in Ashkenaz and in Sepharad, the shochatim have a custom not to slaughter animals on Rosh Hashanah. Why? How can on the day that we're begging Hashem to give us life, we beg for life and then we go to the backyard and kill a bunch of animals? How the shochatim felt it was improper for them, at least on these days of the year, to kill animals. I should tell you, by the way, that's for a reason. The animals that they killed the night before Yom Kippur, half of them go to the trash can. They didn't do it. And that minhag, I'm not going to, there's a silly minhag, who cares? If you really needed to slaughter an animal on Rosh Hashanah, you're allowed to. But it's okay that the Jewish people have the minhag of putting away the things you actually make bread with. It's a real issue. In Morocco, for example, Rabbi Yosef Massas, and he was against chumrot like you would never know about it. He records that in Morocco, though, they had different grinders they would grind flour with. For Pesach and not. And then he records the stringency. It's not a halakha. Simply, it's okay. By this, it's okay. Did I finish my kitchen yet? No.
Slow cooker.
Slow cooker. Slow cooker. The crock pot itself, the lid is made out of glass, no?
Yes.
So you just have to clean the rim all around it. The pot itself,
Ceramic.
why are you doing this to me now? Because I wanted not to talk about ceramic.
Can we just use a liner?
A what?
Can we just use a liner?
If you clean it well, and you use a liner, I'm not going to say anything. Can we go to the next topic?
Dry clean, but what if you don't have a liner?
Oh, what if you don't want to put one?
Comes to me.
But what was it?
Crockpot is ceramic. Officially, ceramic absorbs flavor, but most of the crockpots that you have a glazing on top that prevents it from absorbing flavor. But because the paranoia on the street is still that even glass they're not using for meat milk, how am I going to come tell you that glazed ceramic you can? But without telling you, you know what I'm telling you? So especially if you're going to put a liner,
What if
especially if you're going to put a liner,
And what if throughout the whole year we use it with the liner? So that it's not.
So then your pot never absorbed anything in the first place.
Or buy a new one.
What about rice cooker?
A rice cooker. You know what you're really asking me?
Yeah.
You're just as mean as she is. What you're really asking me is, what do you do with the Teflon coating on top of metal? That's what you're asking me?
Yeah, non-stick.
Aside from being a carcinogen, and kashrut, I would treat it the same way as the metal that's underneath it. You have to make it kosher. I mean, you'd have to boil it or whatever. You made it. But right, what's in it? Sorry, hold on. What's in your rice cooker? Rice. What do you put in there? Hold on. Rice. Tadik with pita on the bottom. No pita. Just potatoes?
Or so.
Rice.
Or rice?
What if you made pita one time?
What if you made pita one time? Maran records halakha that you go by the majority of uses of something. That's why for Sfaradim, let's say I have a cup. Sometimes I use it for coffee, and most of the time though I just use it for orange juice. I don't have to make it kosher because once I use it for hot. It doesn't count. It's not what it is. The Ashkenazim disagree, and even if you use something once, you have to make it kosher after that. So that's the difference between Sfaradim and Ashkenazim. Can I finish with the kitchen, or are we still in the kitchen? Yes. This one, wash it. This one?
It's just water.
What do you put in here? Water, what else?
Tea, coffee.
Tea, what else?
Sugar.
Milk.
Coffee, sugar.
So no chametz.
Not chametz here. What about the steam? Watch your own science fiction videos. I'm not making one for you. You're in Hollywood. What else?
Going back to the...
Kos kiddush.
Going back
Wait, what about the kiddush cup? Have you ever bought a wine that's not kosher for Passover? Maybe the challah crumbs? Who cares? The challah crumbs are cold. The whole thing is cold. Try it, by the way. If you want to take your great-grandfather's silver cup and then boil it in a hot pot of water, watch what happens to that silver. And you'll realize that the custom that you just invented, your grandfather didn't have, or else you wouldn't be using a kiddush cup, you'd be using some kind of... They tell a story about this guy. He goes to the tailor. And he said, I want a custom-made suit. You know, my friend at work, he has a custom-made suit. I also want a custom-made suit. And with this tailor, he doesn't know how to make custom-made suits. I mean, he's not a professional. He just knows how to make hems and buttons and those things. So don't worry, let me take your measurements. And he uses measurements. It takes him, and the guy comes back, and he says, it's been 3 weeks. I finally made you a suit. He puts it on, and the sleeve goes up till here. And these ones' buttons are right there. And it's like that. And the tailor, he says, oh, this is a custom-made suit? Of course, custom-made suit. He says, you're just not wearing it properly. He says, come. He says, take your hand. He says, put it like this. Leave it like that. So take the suit, bend over like that. Bend over like that. He says, now your head, lift like this. See how beautiful you look? Look, Hashem. Sometimes you feel halakha where like tailor-fitting situation, not even a situation, not a thing. There's kos kiddush will look like that guy in the suit. If you boiled it, if for 100 years you don't have to make a kos kiddush kosher. Someone said another thing here. It was another thing?
So going back to the ceramic crock pot, forget the liner, but why wouldn't it be kosher the same way that it became chametz?
Yeah, you could do that too. Okay, next. I'm done with the kitchen. No, I'm not done with the kitchen. What time is it?
Ceramic plates with a glaze, but the bottom is not glazed.
Correct. Give me the scenario in which the bottom of your plate touch food. Thank you. No. What do we say? Someone who admits the truth. It's a big character trait.
Are we talking about food?
Yeah, well, I want to talk about food.
Okay.
But I don't know if I have only 15 minutes on my clock left. Did we finish the kitchen?
Yeah, pretty much.
You must have a big kitchen, because not. Yeah, next topic. You want to talk about foods?
Yeah.
Bread.
Matzah?
Can someone put these away for me, please? I'm gonna. Just don't bill me the same way you bill your clients. I'm not doing it by 40. Okay. Yeah. Foods. What do you want to know about food? So let me make a shameless pitch right here. On April the 7th in San Diego, Rafael Gurria, can you raise your hand? Can you raise your hand? He's donating our third Sefer Torah to our community, God willing. Everyone here is invited to join us on April 7th. April 8th at night, we're having the same class in San Diego. Though those people already got used to me, so they fall asleep halfway through and they don't go, what? What did you say? That never happens to me in San Diego. In fact, they wanted me this time around, I should put a camera in this direction. Because they already know what happens in this direction. They want to see what happens over there. On April 9th, I'm doing a walkthrough of the Costco warehouse in San Diego. I had on my list last year about 400 products that were kosher for Pesach, for Sfaradim, and for Ashkenazim in Costco. You know how many 400 products is? It meant that I had a very small list of things that were not kosher for Pesach in Costco. I also have, on April the 10th, that's a Wednesday night, I have a walkthrough of the Trader Joe's in San Diego in La Jolla. I was spending an hour and a half in Trader Joe's. I think last year, Trader Joe's is not as big of a store as Costco, but every single aisle has not dozens, hundreds of things that are kasher for Pesach, some for Sfaradim, some for Ashkenazim, some only for Sfaradim, some only for... And we, God willing, we have those lists. Let me tell you the truth. The truth is that in past years, I never give out those lists, unless you're on the tour. The reason for it? To understand those lists, you have to have one, been in a class like this one, and two, listen to the way that I explain certain things in the store. There are things that it's not just enough to say yes, no, good, bad. Some of those things require an explanation. And being that the rabbinic communities of the world, especially of Los Angeles, are not always so particular about the mitzvah of hachanasat orchim, of hosting the guests from San Diego, we've had to be very careful on what we do and what we don't do around, not a fear of anybody, more like I don't want to get all of you in trouble without being here to back you up. So therefore, I'm inviting you to join me in San Diego on April 9th and 10th to walk through the Trader Joe's and Costco warehouse. This year, I don't think I'm going to have a day to do such a thing in Los Angeles. Probably if we would do it in Trader Joe's, from what I know about you guys in Trader Joe's, we have to shut down Trader Joe's to bring all the people who eat at Trader Joe's to be able to do a tour. But I'm sure we could arrange something like everything is from Trader Joe's around here. And I'm more than happy to do that. My hope is that by next year Pesach, our group of people who learn together are organized enough that we can plan a night. And I will come here. If it means that I need to be here it takes me about 4 days to do every store. So in Costco, I come when they open at 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'm there for mamash 4 whole days, sitting down with products and with ingredients and which kind of vinegars and which kind of this and all of that. I come, and the next 4 days I spend, and then I make a list and I do a tour. I would love to do the same thing here in Los Angeles. I will hire Raphael again for my security because it's scary, but we should do it. We can arrange it. For this year, I have to tell you, come join me in San Diego, and I'm not certain that I'll be able to share those lists even beyond that group. I have the reasons that I'm concerned about. I'm sorry about them, but they are there and they're real. And that doesn't mean that you are lost in the dark and that I've abandoned you. We have a Pesach Kashrut forum on Facebook. In that forum, we have, as of today, some 756 members. I started that forum 4 years ago just for my San Diego people. We had like 40 people in that forum. And then the next year, some people from LA joined, 170 people. This year, I think we got 63 requests today to join that forum, and I plan to keep growing. The way that works is very simple. Any food product that you have a question about between now and Pesach, what you have to do, there's even a video, there's a rabbi that explains how we do this. You take your phone, you snap a picture of the front, snap a picture of the ingredients label, write to me the name of the product so it's searchable for other people so we don't have to answer this question 100 times, post it in the group. I give you about 30 minutes and you'll get an answer to whether this is good for Ashkenazim, this is good for Sfaradim, this is good for nobody. That service is completely free of charge. All you have to have is a Facebook account to do that. And please, please, please take me up on that. I have 2 moderators this year that are helping, and anything that's automatically on my Trader Joe's or Costco list, they'll just approve automatically and let you know that it's good for Pesach. So don't be so concerned. Yes?
It's a serious note that garbanzo beans and lentils and beans and stuff like that.
Okay, so let's start about the food and we'll go down this road. I want to just I planned this class should end at 10 o'clock. If anyone has to go 10 o'clock, please feel free, but I really want to answer all of your questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try as much as possible to finish up a few things, and then whoever wants to stick around, I can be here until I have to take my kids to school tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning. So just have that in mind. Yes? Pesach Kashrut Forum with Rabbi Yonatan. Yeah. What are we allowed to eat on Pesach? We said no chametz. What is chametz? The 5 grains. You have to understand that the more 5 grains that you eat, the more chances you have of getting close to eating chametz on Pesach. So all the stringencies of not eating beans and not eating corn and not eating rice forces people to eat a lot of matzah. A lot of matzah. aside from maybe some health issues that might create for a person, that also means that you are constantly eating on Pesach. What's the reason people don't eat corn or rice or beans? Either because it looks like chametz, and people might get confused, or because
Can make flour.
you can make flour out of it and people will get confused, or because they were mixed at one point with chametz. When you eat beans or rice on Pesach, is there actually chametz in there? But if you eat a matzah and that matzah wasn't baked properly, are you eating chametz on Pesach?
Yes.
That's a biblical prohibition. So in what's called the law of unintended consequences, the more things you prohibit people to eat on Pesach, the more matzah they eat. The more matzah they eat, the higher chance they actually will violate Pesach biblically. And that's one of the greatest reasons why our rabbis try to avoid prohibiting things that were not prohibited on Pesach. Corn, rice, and beans, all the lentils, all the rice, all of them, bakol, mikol, kol, are good for all the Sfaradim. What if you come from certain Sephardic countries where they didn't eat kidneyot?
You don't eat them?
You can eat them. Don't worry about it. If you're Ashkenazi and you want to eat kidneyot, speak to your rabbi, please. If you are Ashkenazi, to which extent do you have to keep kidneyot? The original decree of kidneyot was on rice and certain legumes like beans and lentils. What about byproducts of any of those things?
Allowed.
Rice, syrup, soy oil, corn syrup. All of those things are permitted for Ashkenazim on Pesach according to the Ashkenazi. That's the original Ashkenazi custom. Harav Kook has a long letter about it. Rabbi Yitzchak Lopez, inspector of Kovno, says that anything that has kidneyot inside of it, that was mixed before Pesach, are kidneyot prohibited for Ashkenazim on Pesach? Only by the power of a custom. What about 2 weeks before Pesach?
No.
You can intentionally annul kidneyot in your food on Pesach, before Pesach, if you are Ashkenazi. And therefore, according to the original custom of the Ashkenazi Jews, anything which is a mixture of kidneyot, and the majority of that mixture is not kidneyot, or the kidneyot that's being eaten is a byproduct of kidneyot, and not actually the original food, all of those things are permitted for Ashkenazim on Pesach.
Like corn syrup.
Like corn syrup. Like corn syrup and Coca-Cola. That's right. Why did nobody argue with me? That's not what's taught on the street, but that's what's written in the books. Now, I can't rule for all the Ashkenazi communities what they should follow. But if you're Ashkenazi and you want to still take care of your custom of not eating kidneyot, that's okay. Follow all the halachot we mentioned, and simply don't eat rice and beans and corn and whatever else, but any mixtures or any byproducts of those things is okay. To translate that into a practical situation, if you want to get invited to your friend's house and they're Sfaradim, and you know that they eat rice on Pesach, and chaz v'shalom, they might have cooked your soup in a pot that they made rice with 2 hours ago, do you have to be concerned of eating that food on Pesach? No. Why? Kidneyot is not prohibited. It's annulled. Are you allowed to annul kidneyot on Pesach? It can't be more strict than chametz. We said it the last time I was here. You can't make a fence to protect your house that's taller than the house itself. Chametz we don't nullify on Pesach. Kidneyot is a different story. You didn't nullify it. Someone else. It already was nullified. It's completely permissible for Ashkenazim and Sfaradim to eat together on Pesach. What other issue of concern comes up? Kidneyot is not a big deal. What's another issue that comes up on food? Yes.
So, my husband and I every year have this argument.
Yes. I don't want to promote shalom bayit issues. So
right, no, it's fine.
I'm going to tread
That's
carefully.
why I'm
Catch
here.
food on the countertop?
No, he probably does.
Just the food, huh?
No, so he wants me to buy things like almond butter and peanut butter and foods that don't have Pesach certification, but that don't have any chametz in them. And
that's a different topic than kidneyot.
this is right.
I mean, you're asking not because of the peanuts or almonds not being permitted.
No, because we eat kidneyot.
You mean because of things that don't have particular specific certification?
Right.
Can I talk about that in 3 minutes?
Sure.
Yes? Is there still a remainder to the question?
No, so it's just, you know.
Well, I know what to do about that. Okay,
Right, how do
so
we
let
handle
me go there in just mamash, less than 2 minutes. About kidneyot, about eating in people's houses, soft matzot. You may hear that Sfaradim eat soft matzah. Ashkenazim also used to eat soft matzah. Until sometime in history, the Ashkenazim record that they lost the art of how to make soft matzah that was not chametz. How thick are your matzot allowed to be on Pesach? There's a limit. There's a limit to how thick. Mishnah B'U'al, Chavetz Chaim says, it shouldn't be thicker than 4 fingers stacked on top of each other.
Wow.
Your matzah should not be thicker than that.
Big pita.
You know the whole story? That's Mishnah B'U'al, Chavetz Chaim. It's an Ashkenazi opinion, not even 100 years ago. Now, with the whole thing about rising and ego, and you can't have anything that rose on Pesach, all of that, leave it in some kindergarten classroom. It's not a halakha. It's not written anywhere like that. That's all a fairy tale that somebody invented. The only difference between bread that you eat before Pesach and on Pesach is how long it waited until it was baked. So if you managed to get your bread that thick before Pesach, it was fully baked on the inside, meaning you didn't leave dough in the middle, then that's okay. But that's the reason why Sfaradim, even though we ate soft matzah, we didn't make kubana, like Yemenite bread. We made lafaz and things that were much thinner than that, lavash bread, things like that, because they're thinner and you're able to ensure they're fully cooked. A lot of the soft matzah that are being sold by Sfaradim, you should know, are baked by people who are not particular so much in this area of halakha. I have a problem with it. You're going to hear a stringency. Many times, and I've done it myself, I've paid the $60 to buy a box of those matzot. You split the matzah down in the middle, and the inside is still dough. It's a problem on Pesach. Just because you're Sephardic doesn't mean you can eat chametz on Pesach. You have to know, it doesn't make a difference whose name is written on that box. You have to make sure that what you're eating on Pesach is okay. In my community, we also bake soft matzot. We bake soft matzot at the thinness of a tortilla. So it's soft. It's not as cool as the lacha, but it's for sure not chametz, and it's kosher for Sfaradim and for Ashkenazim. Ashkenazim are not prohibited from eating soft matzot. They simply don't have a tradition on how to make it. And therefore, if they meet someone who does have a tradition on how to make it, they're absolutely allowed to eat that. Are there people who argue? Yes, but it's not a halakhic opinion. It's a street opinion. Next, we mentioned about food products that don't have special kosher for Passover certification. In San Diego, I don't know what it's like in LA. In San Diego, I once went to Ralph's, and they were selling 1 liter of olive oil, kosher for Passover, for $46.99. $46.99. I go to Costco, and I buy those 2, I don't know what they are. They're like 3 liters maybe?
Yeah.
It's 2 liters? There's more than that. I think it's a 3 liter, it's 1.5 liters in each container. I buy that whole thing for $20, now it's $30. All of that. What's the difference between this one and that one? Yeah, one has a P and one doesn't. I'll write a P. Bring me a permanent marker, I'll make a P for you. What's the big deal? Now let me explain to you the origin of this halakha. Maran writes on Shulchan Aruch in chapter Taf Mem Zayin 447 in Hilchot Orach Chaim in halakha Hey 5. Look it up. I'm telling you a source so you can look it up. You don't have to believe me. You say, and I was today in one of the, I'm not going to mention names, one of the kosher stores, and they had like the meat that was kosher for Passover and the stuff that's on the white paper. That's there's the kosher and not kosher for Passover. What's the difference in those two things? The price. That's the only difference in the two things. One is more expensive and one is less expensive. Maran writes, if you're going to go buy fish or meat or cheese or anything that's not a chametz ingredient, even if it's been processed, it's been salted, it's been pickled, it's been dry, whatever is smoked, whatever happened to it, but it has no chametz there. It says, even though the people who made it were not particular to be careful about chametz around it. What does it mean not to be careful about the chametz around it? What's a classic example? It's not that they didn't boil the countertop. The Mishnah B'U'al, who's the Mishnah B'U'al? He's the Chavetz Chaim. Who's the Chavetz Chaim? He's an Ashkenazi rabbi, one of the greatest. He says, imagine if they made beef jerky and they put salt over there, and the salt had breadcrumbs in it. Because they weren't careful when they mixed the sack and that sack, and there were breadcrumbs. That's okay. Because it got mixed before Pesach. Who cares? Maran says it's permitted. Ashkenazim have a custom not to eat that though. Their custom is that if it was not prepared with special Pesach certification, they have to wash it first. Once they wash it, Ramah mentions 3 times washing it, that means washing it well, you can buy whatever you want. So all the chicken and the fish and the meat and everything else, and this extends to any product that was made without special kosher for Passover certification. But in front of you, there's no chametz. It may have been in the same room as chametz, it may have been around chametz, it may have been on machinery that was chametz. According to the Shulchan Aruch, you're allowed to eat this food. According to the Ashkenazim, you should wash it first.
Things you can't wash.
Some things you can't wash, that's right. Ashkenazim are in hotter water than we are about this. But when the Rama says that Ashkenazim cannot do it, he mentions that it's not a halakha, it's only a custom. And because of that, when I rule for Ashkenazim who want to follow this approach, it's permissible because you're going to go to Gehinnom for following Maran. And therefore, all the food products in the store,
Even if they're processed.
especially if the Maran specifically chooses processed foods, and they were specifically processed in places that nobody was careful to keep them away from chametz. So long as there's no chametz in front of you right now, it's kosher for Pesach. That means olive oil, lemon juice, jams, everything that doesn't have chametz inside of it. If you're not certain, because some of those ingredients might actually be chametz in another fancy scientific disguise, that's why we have a forum for free. And we'll tell you, this product, you see something, dextrose. Dextrose can be made out of corn, and therefore I'm going to record in that product. It's good for Sfaradim and for K.A., Kitniot Ashkenazim. Ashkenazim who eat derivatives of Kitniot. Yes? Because everything, it doesn't make a difference where it came from. As long as what's in front of you is kosher for Pesach, that is the halakha. Anyone else is just trying to make money off of the backs of the Jewish people. They say the miracle of Pesach is that your paycheck for the whole month, it disappears before Pesach even comes. That's the miracle of Pesach. And suddenly you come to the synagogue and the rabbi rolls in with his spinning tires on his brand new Lexus SUV. You wonder, how did he get all the money for Pesach? Because he sold you the chicken, guys, remember? What do you think he got the money from?
Yeah, the shawarma.
Yes, I see foods. Talk to me about foods.
What's the problem with citric acid?
What is the problem with citric acid? Citric acid is a great question. Citric acid is added to products to give it an acidic flavor or some kind of, sometimes it's a preservative or whatever else that goes in there. Citric acid is not always from citrus fruits. Sometimes citric acid can actually be made from chametz origins. Rabbi Yosef rules that that's not a problem at all. That who cares that it came from chametz? Now it's not a chametz. It's a byproduct of chametz. It's been processed to the point, like we mentioned about gelatin in the past. That's not an issue. What about natural flavors? That's an interesting thing to say on camera. I actually was up in arms about natural flavors. I wasn't sure what I was going to do this year with natural flavors. Suffice it to say that according to this country's Federal Department of Agriculture, and you have to thank the gluten-free and the celiac communities and those who are particular about not having certain foods. Natural flavors, how does it work with a natural flavor? I had to do a lot of research this week with people who understand the food manufacturing world and with people who understand halakha. The story with natural flavors is as follows. Let's say you have sparkling water, raspberry flavored sparkling water. Now these guys know that raspberries are expensive. So what do? They put sparkling water, they add a drop of raspberry juice, they could say with raspberry flavor, and then they have some kind of grass or something that tastes like raspberries that they extract. What does a natural flavor mean? You know the word ester? Not Esther the Queen. E-S-T-E-R? They extract an ester. It's a protein. They isolate a cell from inside of this grass. That's the one that gives the flavor. They plug it into that food, and it adds to the raspberry flavor. You have to think of a scenario in which they're going to be extracting that from any kind of chametz. Which drink are you buying that has natural flavors, and they took from barley some flavor to enhance the fruit punch flavor? And even if it was, according to the laws in this country, they would have to list on the label that there is a wheat product or something of that sort in the, if not in the ingredients label, they will list it in the allergen label. And even if they didn't list it, you want to say they didn't write it, it's highly debatable whether that little bit of ester that you took out of a chametz product and then you mixed it into something else, and then that gave flavor into the food, if that is considered enough of a chametz mixture to pose a problem on Pesach. And unless you would know for sure that this ingredient contains chametz, there's no reason to assume that there is chametz inside of a product.
But that wouldn't fall under that.
What?
It wouldn't fall under that.
No, but see, something that gives flavor cannot be nullified in 60. Because the whole thing of 60 is that it stops giving flavor. So it has to stop giving flavor. But here what I'm telling you is that even what's giving flavor is not chametz, and even if it was chametz, it's not on its own, and it's not enough of a chametz. I spoke to a number of poskim before we got involved in this, and I'm not afraid to tell you that's our stance on that. So buying stuff before Pesach, yeah. If there are people that tell you have to buy all your stuff before Pesach. The reason why you have to buy things before Pesach, according to them, is because before Pesach, everything is nullified,
Right.
everything is nullified before Pesach. On Pesach, things don't get nullified. There are two misconceptions here. One is that when you buy something, that's when things become nullified. The things already became nullified when they were made in the factory 7 months ago, when they were on the food that you're buying in the grocery store. Things have been nullified at the time of making. Now there's an argument in halakha whether it's nullified at the time that they made it or the time that a Jew bought it. I wrote a letter, it's on our Shiviti group, I actually wrote it to Shkom. It's a public record if you want, I think it's some 7 pages over there and different halakhic sources that explain this. There is no chametz inside of the food that you're buying. I mean, people have to buy milk because of the chametz and the eggs because of the chametz, but there is no chametz in your milk. This would only apply if you knew that there was chametz inside of something and you wanted to nullify it. But you don't have chametz, and therefore you can buy all the stuff you want on Pesach, unless you're really concerned there is chametz inside of something. If you're concerned about chametz inside of something, you can't buy it on Pesach. There's no way around having chametz on Pesach. Yes?
So people buy all new spices?
All new spices. The reason they buy all new spices, our rabbinit left. The reason they buy all new spices is because the science fiction of the steam. The steam from your chicken soup goes into the spices, and then next time it's going back into your food. I'm not so concerned about steam as much as I'm concerned about people not keeping clean. I'm very particular about cleanliness when it comes to cooking. Not everything else, cooking. And when I got married and I started getting volunteers in my kitchen from the synagogue to make food, I realized that I will never, even when I make coffee, let's say in the morning for my wife, I will never put the same spoon in the coffee as I put in the sugar, and I always have a third spoon that I mix the stuff with. I'll never mix those things. But there are people, you get your sugar, all of a sudden there's black stuff there, and there's like leftover of their coffee still, liquid inside of your sugar. Those people are a disaster to have in a halakhic kitchen. And so the spices, all I can tell you is if your spices are clean, and they don't look like they have any kind of food inside of them, you don't have to get all new spices for Pesach. There's no...
The outsides of the containers are young.
Wash them. Or get a new... I'm not telling you... I'm telling you that according to halakha, I cannot compel you to get a new spice because maybe there was steam out of a chametz. It's not a reason to prohibit them. Yes? Yes.
Is there a problem with buying all the ingredient, Passover
yes.
or not Passover?
Let me answer that question. Right? Let me do this. I could be here all night, and I plan to be here for a little bit longer. What I want to do is wish everybody a Laila Tov. I want to wish you a Chag Kasher L'Sameach. I want to bless you with one thing. Back to the beginning, and don't worry, for those who have questions, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to turn off the camera, and I'm going to answer all of the questions that you have until the last one of you stops asking me questions. Last time I said that, I was here until 1:30 in the morning, which means I got to San Diego at 3:45 in the morning. That's okay, because it's important for me. It's important for me what I said in the beginning. I didn't come to be lenient in halakha. There are rumors that go around. There is no leniency when you follow what it says in halakha. What it says in the Shulchan Aruch is not a leniency. What our rabbis ruled in the Rambam, what our rabbis ruled in the Talmud and the Mishnah is not a leniency. That is the law that you and I and your rabbi who sends you emails has to follow. If you allow them to deviate from the law to the right or to the left, you're permitting, what's the difference? You say, oh, this one doesn't even eat kosher. Where did they learn that you cannot keep kosher? When you taught them that you could be more kosher than the Shulchan Aruch, they figured, hey, so the Shulchan Aruch is not a thing anymore. So I can be less kosher than the Shulchan Aruch too. Don't think that there's some kind of stringency involved in making up a new halachot, like putting socks on top of your faucet for Pesach. It makes you look like a fool. Yes, it does. I'm sorry if I'm offending you. If a rabbi says it, it's even worse. It should make you question whether you can ask them halachic questions ever, because their judgment is problematic. They tell you that they don't care then what it says in the codes of Jewish law. But more than that, what it has done is it's created this holiday to become the fear and the terror of every Jewish person. People in the Jewish community dread Pesach. They dread it because of how expensive it is. They dread it because of how hard it is. They dread it because they have to clean so much. They dread it because they can't eat anything. You at least get rice. But there's some people that it's potatoes and carrots and chicken. That's what they're eating on Pesach. And lots of crunchy, stale matzot. And what this has created in the Jewish people is a sinah, a hatred of this holiday. When this holiday you're going to hold the Kos Kiddush Hashem, this is the time of our redemption. Which redemption? You're a slave to a little pamphlet that goes around Los Angeles. That's what you're a slave to. You're a slave to people who tell you, hey, careful, the paper place you're eating from, it might have a pig inside of it. You're a slave of people who are trying to manipulate your intelligence and to tell you, what do you know about aluminum foil? Don't you know about the cockroaches in the aluminum foil? What are you talking about? They've turned a holiday that celebrates redemption into a holiday that puts fear, not of Hashem, fear of Torah and mitzvot and wanting to love being Jewish in the hearts of people. That's why we're here, only to teach people halachot, nothing more and nothing less. B'ezrat Hashem, I wish you a Chag Hashem v'Sameach. I want it to be a holiday of redemption for you. Please take me up on 2 offers to join our online forum and come to San Diego, if not to visit me for the tours of Trader Joe's or Costco, and come visit me for Pesach. We're going to be baking matzot on April the 14th. If you want to join me, you don't have to pay any money. I'm looking for workers for free. If you want to join me in San Diego to roll matzot and make soft matzot, I'll send you with them home. Chevah who want to stick around, please just do me a favor. Move closer and let's turn out the camera.